Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the Graveyard Media Podcast for the week of October 9th, 2017. I'm your host, Saine Grey. With me is Dalsson.
I'm always first. Thel gets to be second.
And Thel.
Apparently, fucking Mushroom Land put out a new song.
Cool.
It's a YouTube channel.
Yeah, who, exactly.
So, let's go.
Let's go.
Thel,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's been a while since you started the games and movies you've been playing and watching this week, so why don't you start this time?
I started last week.
No, you
'Cause
didn't.
I didn't. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I
No,
started last week.
you didn't start
because-
last week, and you didn't
is it?
start the week before that either. No,
Really?
definitely
Oh,
not
never
you.
mind then. All right. Yeah, I will start.
Actually, I think last week is the first week in, like, a month that Thel didn't start first, but...
Okay. Oh fuck! I just realized I haven't.
Somehow I feel like my irony was lost on you guys. Thel has
No, I
started
got
every week for a month.
I got what you were trying to do. No, but last week he actually didn't do it first.
Oh.
I think
I'm glad that we
started
can have
first.
this conversation so that I can think about what I have actually played. Cuphead and Nier, which I've talked about on this before.
You haven't talked.
You haven't talked about Cuphead.
I haven't talked about. Oh
no,
well,
it didn't.
It's been a long
wasn't
week,
out
dude.
Last week.
Shit.
Well, we talked about Cuphead, but you hadn't tried it yet.
Oh, I
haven't
hadn't
played
played
it
it yet.
yet.
Oh, okay. Well,
I also haven't, but I just picked it up.
So yes, Cuphead came out, and I've been playing it, and game is pretty tough, as everyone has said, but like at no point does it feel like it just threw some bullshit at you. A lot of the times it's like if I lose, it's I forgot that I have an ability that can dash, and I forgot that I can parry, and that parrying gives me my super bar a lot quicker. It's definitely a game about going from boss to boss. That's basically what it is, and this would be like a problem if all of the bosses weren't incredibly interesting and varied. All of the bosses have like a bunch of phases, like to the point of like 4 phases per boss at very least at the point of the game that I'm at. And each of these, a lot of these bosses, like each of the phases can be different. Like, it can have like a different attack that's themed the same way for the first phase, than it did last time you fought it. So like, you're not going in, dying, and then just doing the exact same shit again. It never gets that boring, and it like basically randomizes all of the phases. So, oops.
Oh no.
It's
Oh.
okay.
That doesn't. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, it randomizes all
Ah!
of the
I
phases.
see it.
Okay. That's what I meant to do.
What? Is it me?
No.
No, Saint flipped himself upside down. If you were watching the stream, you'd know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Uh,
Okay.
I just remember that I could actually flip it so that it's oriented correctly, but I totally forgot until just now. But I always
Yeah,
mix
you
up
actually-
horizontal and vertical for flipping, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that was distracting. It was just
Okay.
funny.
I mean, that's okay. Yeah. In Cuphead, there are also like these there are these little contra things where you can go through, and those are basically just get coins so you can get items, pay for stuff.
So,
Yeah.
do the bosses have a stage associated with them? Do you have to go through a boss stage, even like a short one, to get to the boss?
No,
or do you
not at
just...
all.
go
There's
and
a big
fight
overworld
them?
map.
Uh-huh.
And on the overworld map, you go to like a different little venues. Go to the venue and you fight a boss. And there are like little stages that you can go to, but these little stages like are just for money.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's
is-
basically just a boss rush.
I thought
Basically.
I think that I heard that there was like some demonic undertones in this game. Is that right, or was I just seeing like a joke?
There sure
As far
are.
as as far as I
the
know.
main villain of
Yeah.
this game is Satan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that
deal
doesn't
with
sound
the
like-
devil, and you roll the dice, and the devil comes out, and he's like, "Hey, I'll give you all the gold in my casino if you can beat me in this dice roll. But if you lose, you got to give me your soul. You roll the dice, and you lose, and he takes your
Oh,
soul.
fucking course you do.
Yeah, because he's the devil. And so what you gotta do next is you gotta go get the souls of a bunch of all of these bosses. You gotta take these souls of the devil so you can get your soul back and kick his butt.
Oh, so it's like Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, no.
It's like Shadow of the Colossus meets Doom meets Minnie the Moocher, the Betty Boop short.
Okay, well,
Fucking- Well, that's
sounds
actually
that's
another
what I was
thing.
kind of hearing about it, and that does not. I mean, I kind of know that the devil was a bad guy, was one of the bosses or whatever, but I don't think they make it super clear the overall plot of that game.
Yeah.
The game is titled Cuphead. Don't deal with the devil.
Also,
Well, yeah,
like,
but nobody really puts the subtitle anywhere on it.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that
It's
is
just
true.
Cuphead.
Like usually it just says Cuphead. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
and that's I think it was in the like first trailer they sort of did a little bit of a rundown on the plot. I feel like there are a couple of rundowns on the plot in the game. There's like when you first start up the game, there's like a little storybook that tells you what happens.
right.
But then again, when you start up like the game,
I just
like,
mean I didn't really
immediately-
know from the trailers, so.
Oh yeah. Like when you start up the game immediately, you get a barbershop quartet singing the song of what happens in the game.
Oh,
It's
good.
great. Also, speaking of the music, very all incredibly good. And one of the things is like this.
It's like that
doesn't feel
sentence.
this doesn't feel like a thing that was made now that's trying to be like the 1930s. Like sometimes you see a bunch of like music videos or whatever, they have like the 1930s style, but you can still very much, oh, okay, this was made today, this was made yesterday. You can see they're doing a little bit of CGI stuff there. They've got a little bit of this, got a little bit of that. The art style isn't exactly like it was. This game, they made damn sure that everything was perfect, from like the painted backgrounds to like even the physical backgrounds with like that weird rotoscoping thing where they like took a picture
Yeah.
over like a piece of glass. Yeah, they did all of that stuff.
I hear that you can also turn the color off, but it makes the game 10 times as hard because you don't know what you can parry.
Yeah.
Well, it already looks like it was colored in like Technicolor anyway, where
Yeah,
they
yeah,
went
it
back
looks like
and
Technicolor.
like colored the
the cells. Yeah.
yeah the
Mhm.
cells.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they probably went out of their way to replicate a lot of those processes to make it
Yeah.
look
look
more
as-
like it.
Legitimate as it could. Yeah, and they were entirely successful. It looks perfect. It looks like, aside from the fact that it's a video game, it looked like it could have been made in the 1930s.
Yeah.
Also,
cool.
this Mr. They also they paid good care to get a bunch of big band stuff. All of it's big band swing. All the soundtrack. It's some
Well, I'm
good
glad-
stuff.
Oh, that
I'm
sounds
glad
fun.
that they. That
Maybe
that
I'll
does
just buy the
sound great.
soundtrack.
Yeah. They got all that big band swing. They got a dude who sounds as much like Cab Calloway as they could singing Mr. Dice's theme. They got fucking barbershop quartets.
Is my Mr. Dice Satan?
No, he
No,
owns the
Satan.
casino.
Satan.
Satan is Satan.
Or the
himself.
devil. The devil
Yeah,
is Satan.
The devil. The devil is Satan. The devil is the devil. Mr. Dice just owns the casino. He's a sleazy businessman with the dice for the head.
So crazy Thel.
Yeah. He's Mr. King Dice.
Thel,
He's
you
the
should
gamest
you
in
should
the
change your
land.
Tumblr icon to Mr. Dice.
Oh shit.
I have a brand, and that brand is that strange fat man from
What?
Stock Photo.
Whatever.
Branding is very important, Sane.
Branding is very important for my fucking. I'm just gonna smoke.
I
this
don't
rabbit
think it's
foot.
very. I don't think it's
Branding
very
is
important for Thel's meme reblog Tumblr, but whatever.
It's very important for my meme reblog Tumblr. You know, I got a bunch of customers. They come into my store and they expect this smiling face of this fat guy who was on fucking Stock Photo. They see some sort of King Dice looking ass person behind the counter. They're gonna go, what the hell happened? This isn't the mom and pop shop I did. I mean, I'm trying to branch out and get bigger, yeah, but I still want to keep that mom and pop shop aesthetic. So when people come in,
Okay,
they think
can we
this
move
was-
on now? What else have
Sure.
you been playing?
fucking nothing.
Okay.
Nier? Did you finish Nier?
No, I have not.
I did.
All right.
Can you turn off your autofocus? It keeps on like wigging out every 2
Oh, me?
seconds. Yeah.
There is
Oh,
like
no.
nothing that I can say about what I haven't talked about in Nier yet that is not spoilers. Literally not one word. So
Yeah.
Well, you can
All
talk
I'm-
around it.
yeah.
How does it have a satisfying ending?
It
At least I do.
Is it
Okay,
ending
which
with
ending did you
one?
get? Which letter?
okay. I got ending A and B. Obviously, those are the first like regular playthroughs, and then
Okay.
after ending B, instead of like at ending A, you go back, replay the story as 9S. I feel like that's pretty like everybody
Yeah.
knows about that at this
Yeah.
point. After ending B, instead of going back and playing as a third character at the same time, the story moves forward and continues from where ending B leaves off.
And you play as everyone.
And you play as everyone.
I have gotten this far, yeah.
There was a very, very satisfying, like, I guess, second to final boss fight, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
where it was just this big long sequence where you're playing as one android, and then like you like in the middle it just hijacks you and you flop over to a different android doing something completely different, and then you flip back and then you flip back, and then it keeps going faster and faster, just flipping back and forth until finally they converge at the same spot, and then they're both fighting both bosses at once, and each phase, when you get the boss's health bar low enough, it switches you to the other character, which is cool but also annoying because those two characters play so differently that you have to use different sets of chips. So you have to every time you flip back and forth, you have to go into a different menu and change out your chipsets, which are like your power-up settings.
Well, here's the thing. You have multiple, like, chipsets that you can set, so you can have one...
Yeah, I did, but you still have to go into the menu and change it.
set it. Yeah, that is true.
But God, like, I was, like... You can even go back and look at the VOD. I was, like, losing my mind. I was like, this is so fucking awesome!
Yeah, the game is if like gameplay wise, the game is just an exercise in how much cool shit can Platinum do, and story wise, it's an exercise in how much cool shit can Yokotaro.
And how much fucking insane shit can Yokotaro do?
Fair enough, and
boy can he! I read a Steam
everyone
review.
delivers.
I read a Steam review, and I don't remember the man's name, but it's like one of the top rated reviews. This man was hilarious, so I take no credit for his ideas, but he said, 30 years ago, I was behind a dumpster playing with Mega Bloks because Legos were too expensive, and a man came up to me wearing a creepy smiling mask. That man was Yokotaro. And he said, what if I made 25 different games that were all connected by the lore, but had nothing to do with each other? I told him he was insane, and then he stabbed me and stole my Mega Bloks. 10 years later, Drakengard was made, and the rest is history. And then he goes on to like give a legitimate review, but like that, it's like that is Yokotaro. That describes him perfectly.
I read a bunch of Steam reviews that said, "Fuck this game. I mean, it's great, but I can't play it."
To give you insight to Yokotaro himself, I saw a tweet the other day from Toby Fox. That was it was a quote from Yokotaro about Undertale. And Yokotaro, Yokotaro says about Undertale, this was an incredible RPG, very memorable. It took me 50 hours to complete. Of course, 40 of those hours I was either drunk or passed out.
Sounds about right.
I love this man. I love Yokotaro.
Yeah.
I never got into Nier Replicant or Drakengard, any of them, but I mean, I played Drakengard 1, but I never really got into it. But Nier Automata makes me want to go back and play his other games.
I have not played any of these games, even Nier Automata. So,
well, you should start.
I probably should, but I'm not super into spectacle fighters, so.
Yeah, well.
Well, I mean, good enough for you. This game is only some of it is.
Yeah, the rest.
Yeah,
of it
but
is,
like the baseline of it is still that.
The rest of it is
And
like
I don't
a
like
twin-
shmups either, so like,
Oh, okay.
twin stick shooter. There's platformers. There's the
Well,
I mean,
there's
visual
the
novel segments.
side-scrolling beat 'em up. Yeah. And also, it's very much like, I feel like it's a spectacle fighter light.
I'll probably
Yeah,
play
it's
it.
pretty.
I'll probably
pretty
play
damn
it.
easy.
You don't have to sell me on it, but it's
Yeah.
Okay.
like I'm just
yeah.
not super interested in it the same way that you guys are. So
It's got this, for me, its biggest problem, if I had to say one thing, is that there's too much to do. Because I'm already finding myself like forcing myself to go play Cuphead instead, because I want to go back and get every ending. I really want to do that, but I have to force myself to move on to a different game.
Yeah.
well, you should just play multiple games simultaneously instead of
Yes.
playing nothing but Cataclysm.
I will play Cuphead and Nier at the same time, split screen it. Then I'll have the controller in one hand and then the Wazda in the other.
No, you'll
Which
play
one
it
are you gonna
with
be playing
you'll
which
play it with
which?
the DDR pad.
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
play
hold
Cuphead
on.
with the DDR pad, and I'll
Oh,
play
okay,
Nier
alright,
with
there
the
you go.
controller.
There
There
you
we
go.
go. That'll work.
I was thinking, wait, which one do you want to play with which? Are you gonna play fucking Nier or Cuphead with the keyboard? 'Cause I wouldn't recommend either.
Yeah.
Actually, I would say I'd recommend playing Cuphead with the controller more than I would recommend playing Nier with the fucking controller, because
The twin
Damn.
stick shooter segments are really easy if you have a mouse, but in Nier, I mean.
oh yeah, you know, now that I think about it, you're probably right. I've had that's the thing.
And then the rest of the game is hard.
I'm actually really good at twin stick shooters, so like all of the twin stick shooter like battles, even like the
see,
big boss
I've
battles,
played
like,
way too
happen
much
most of me.
Stardust and Geometry
The
Wars.
Twin stick shooter is actually really
Hazard.
fun with the Steam controller because the touchpad is what controls the way you're aiming. So you can just move your hand around the touchpad instead of having to like swivel your control stick around. I really like it.
Yeah, okay, I can see that being
It's
pretty
pretty
cool.
neat. Yeah. I think it might be the only genre that the Steam controller is better for than a regular controller, but
I don't know. I wouldn't even necessarily agree. That feels like just more preference than anything else still.
yeah, that's true.
Why don't we move on
Okay.
to let's talk about Cogmind.
That's a good idea. We did all play
Okay.
Cog Mind.
Yeah, we actually all did.
So,
Cog Mind.
And that is
who wants to
something I have been
start?
playing
Who
this
wants to
week, yeah.
start?
I'll start. I feel like I
Alright,
played
yeah.
the most of it. Maybe
I
Thel
think
played
you
the
played,
most
like,
of it.
I think
I
maybe,
probably played the least of it, but probably got the farthest.
maybe.
Probably. So Cog Mind is a game which is like
The roguelike.
you play as a machine from Nier Automata. No, it's a roguelike, except instead of the normal flair, it's kind of like focused on a like technological basis. You play as a machine's core, and you
I ain't
can
gonna say what you said this game was when you actually started playing it. I'll leave you out of that, man. I'm gonna fucking.
No, tell me.
No, I don't remember.
No,
is
tell
it?
me.
And this is in Dalson's own words. I'm sorry to have to do this, Dalson, but by forgetting you brought this on yourself. When you started, you were like, "Wow, shit, this is like Pickle Rick the game."
Oh yeah, I did say that, huh? It's true though.
It is. I mean,
Because you play-
aren't wrong.
You play as this core that has like absolutely fucking nothing, and you just kill shit and strap shit onto yourself, like weapons, legs, little computer implants like a targeting computer or hacking suite and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
You blow things up and then you take their guns.
yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
And legs.
There is a little bit of a learning curve to it because the game doesn't explain this very well, but you want as many guns and as many legs as you can strapped onto yourself at all times, because when you are hit, the game calculates a part to be hit. And the more parts you have strapped onto you, the less likely it is that your core gets hit. Because if your core gets destroyed, it's game over. If a part gets destroyed, you can literally just kill something and strap a new one onto you.
Do you know if you can repair your core?
You can the only way to gain health back on your core is by leveling up, and you only level up in between stages. So if your core takes damage, you are basically going to be forced to find an exit and run if your core is too low, because the only way to repair it is by leveling up in between stages.
You set up or adjust your camera. You're being cut off by text.
Am I? Oh,
yeah.
That sucks. So, yeah, I mean, the game is really fun. Like, at one point I found a prototype rifle that was a freeze gun. Now, most guns generate heat, and if you generate too much heat, you will overheat your core, and you will lose functionality, gain system corruption and stuff. But this freeze gun made me lose heat. And so I had, like, 5 lasers fire off, and then that one, at the very end, would just expel all of the heat that were generated by my other lasers.
See, that was the weird thing for me. I almost never even remotely had any trouble with heat. And in fact, the whole time I was like -20 heat. Like,
yeah, like I don't think I've ever had any problem with heat. It's
different guns usually, like, different weapons take different types of resources. Like, if you have bullet guns,
they take matter.
You need to kill shit and collect basically scrap metal. Matter is what it's called. And if you run out of ammo, you can't fire them. If you have laser guns, it's going to be draining your energy really fast. And
even laser, I don't know. Like, I did not have any trouble balancing my resources at all.
Yeah,
even a little bit. Like,
I felt like that was like the easiest thing, and maybe I just got like really good drop. I don't know. Like as far as like the utilities.
I see. For me, energy was a very strange problem. I went through like 5 levels, never going below max energy. I never had an issue. I had like 4 nuclear reactors installed into me or something. And then all of the sudden, on floor 6, every time I fired, I just dropped to 0 energy and had to wait. And I didn't change any parts, like nothing. I don't know what it was. Maybe there was some kind of like energy draining field on that floor or something. I don't know. If there was, it gave me no indication of that. But it was weird. Like, most of the game, I never had problems with energy, and then just at one point, I started losing all my energy, and I had to stand still for it to...
Yeah, well, I did actually have that happen to me once, but, like, the reason that was because I didn't have, like, a core or anything, because it was blown out by some asshole.
Energy,
so I had to, like, go look for one before I found one. But, like, when I was, like, suited up, I never had a problem with anything.
Thankfully, if you run out of energy, it's not an automatic death sentence. You can just turn off all of your parts. Like, you can toggle power to them, too. You can just turn them off, and then hold still. Your core generates a base amount of energy. So, all in all, it's very fun.
But you probably don't want to turn off your legs.
Yeah, probably.
I got in the position where they kept on blowing up my legs.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find other legs. So I was very slowly, like, dragging myself across the ground, I guess, with no legs.
Yeah. I had, at one point, found a room that was just filled to the brim with, like cold steel XXX alloy prototype legs. And they all were, like, the flavor text basically said, these legs are indestructible. And then they just shot my core and I died. I think they may have not had a lot of coverage or something.
The way I was able to get to, like, level 4 was I had found some prototype, like, gun. It was, like, prototype grenade launcher. Pick it up. Super death grenade launcher of murder kill.
Yeah.
Fuck. Use this to kill.
Yeah, I only found one prototype thing that I actually bothered to equip, and it was a utility, and it wasn't very good. So I unequipped it.
Prototypes are basically like cursed items or unidentified magic items.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, The only other ones that I found were prototype hover legs, and it's like I'm not gonna equip prototype hover legs
Yeah.
because then I might get stuck with hover legs,
Yeah. Well, the thing
which
is,
have no coverage.
You can take them off immediately, and you won't be stuck with them. But it's like if they're cursed or if they're a bad prototype, they give you system corruption, and they have a chance at destroying one of your other parts.
So that's one thing I didn't quite get. Is there a way to get rid of corruption, or is that something that just builds up over time?
System corruption goes away every time you
enter a new floor.
Enter a new floor. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same as your health. Your health and system corruption reset at each new floor, but man, I didn't understand it either. But one thing that is really cool is the higher your system corruption goes, the more the graphics get fucked up. So like
not just that, it'll also move you in directions that you don't want to move in.
Yeah, or sometimes
that's one of the first things I noticed.
Base Station 13.
Yeah. So like when the game loads in, it loads in a bunch of ASCII, right? Like an old ass roguelike. And then the ASCII slowly loads in tiles. Now, if your system corruption gets too high, your tiles get turned off, and you're back to playing in ASCII, which I thought was really cool.
That's funny. I never got that corrupted. So
certain enemies have guns that instead of causing you damage just cause system corruption, which is atrocious.
People there some of them will melee attack you. And then certain enemies will unequip parts on you. Like if engineers feel like they don't like you for some reason, they'll walk up and just unattach your legs and stuff.
Tear off your fucking head. At one point I tried to be like a battle bot, you know, from the TV show Battle Bots. Yeah. I just equipped tank treads and like 7 different flails and sledgehammers and shit, and I was
I tried that too, and I didn't last very long.
See, the reason I think I got so far, because I only played one run, but this one run took like 2 or 3 hours, so...
Oh my god.
Yeah, because I tend to be pretty good at roguelikes, because I've played a fuck ton of them. A fuck ton of different ones, too, like...
Yeah.
And there are enough similar design principles, especially this one. This one is definitely like a core roguelike. Yeah. This is like a actual roguelike, not a roguelite. So, but
no meta progression, stuff like that. It's just.
I think what ended up happening for me was I kept finding like improved assault rifles. So I would have just equipped 2 assault rifles, and then in my utilities I found like targeting chips or whatever, and those stack. So I had an improved and an advanced targeting chip on me.
Yeah.
And I had like I think by the end I ended with 5 utility slots. So I would use 2 slots for targeting, and I would just fuck people up with assault rifles. And then I would just kill things so fast that they really couldn't deal with me. And occasionally, if I was having trouble or there was a lot of enemies, I would swap in a grenade launcher and then fuck them up with that. But like, I don't know. And any time that you're kind of starting to die, you can just sort of run to the next level, and then everything goes away. So,
but you can't go back up. So it's more beneficial to explore every level to make sure you have shit.
Oh yeah, but if you're dying because there's like 800 dudes,
obviously
there's no reason not to run.
Yeah,
you can. Here's an interesting thing that I saw but was never able to actually do. You are actually able to play this game as a stealth game. So every time you kill an enemy or see somebody sees you, or you hack a terminal, the machines become more and more aware of your presence, and they're more likely to send more troops and stronger troops after you. So the less you are seen, the less things you kill, the longer you can stay on a floor and loot shit. And I found that pretty interesting. So I found myself trying less and less to kill things.
Actually, the trick is to kill inform bots.
That too.
Yeah. There's a particular enemy that is kind of a faster enemy. that if you kill them, they're the ones that usually call reinforcements.
Yeah.
And if you don't hack terminals to the extent that you get caught, then you'll also be better off too. I don't know.
You can also go in and hack terminals to lower the alert level. Like if you
I've
hack
had
a
mixed.
terminal, you'll
I've
see...
had mixed results with that.
Yeah.
You hack a terminal, you might see.
The
they're
problem with
sending
hacking
an
terminals for
assault
security
platoon
level.
after you.
The problem with hacking for security terminals is like that particular option tends to have a high risk involved in it.
Caught, yeah.
So you're in a lot of ways it feels like you're more likely to get more caught by doing that.
Yeah.
One of the things I really like about this roguelike, like in comparison to other roguelikes, and I mean like roguelikes, is that there's like there are no classes. You start out as a brain in a jar, and your class is I found a grenade launcher, so I guess I'm using that now.
Mm-hmm.
I think
it gives
most
you at the beginning, it gives you a choice of legs and a choice of weapons and a choice of 2 engines.
I think
So...
a lot of roguelikes actually don't have classes. It's
okay.
kind of funny because the big ones do, like some of the big ones do.
Yeah.
Like Stone Soup, yeah. Stone Soup definitely has classes, and it's actually very class focused.
I don't know. I feel like the classes aren't like the classes in Stone Soup kind of determine what you start as or what you start with.
But yeah, that's what I was kind of saying. Like most roguelikes, even the ones that are sort of class focused,
are very
tend to go away.
Yeah, they're like classes in Diablo. This is just what you start with, and then you go in and you find.
Not Diablo.
Diablo 1.
Yeah, Diablo 1 or Path of Exile.
That's what I meant.
Yeah,
but not definitely not
probably
Diablo 2.
less even than Path of Exile because that just like puts you on a place on the like skill tree. And
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like you can go wherever from
newer Path of Exile stuff has your choice of starting class matter, but
I don't know. Like even if you start as a Dex character, you have a lot of options to do a lot of different things. So I don't know.
But it's and like Diablo 1 was basically just like a sort of 3D rogue when it came out.
Kind of.
3D.
Well, yeah, 3D.
Yeah.
2.5D, I guess.
But yeah, I really do like how it just sort of starts you out like just congratulations, your class is what legs and gun you decided to choose, and also leveling up. You don't have stats; it's you have another slot in one of the slots that you have.
There is a thing about like builds and stuff. Like obviously, like bipedal legs are the most balanced. They give you a lot of coverage. They give you decent mobility.
Yeah.
But then you could do like I did. You could go for a build where you just strap 400 flails onto you and use tank treads all game. And
tank treads are really good no matter what you're using because they have so little knockback. Because they actually have a unique element to them in that they lower knockback from both receiving and shooting. So
the reason that I use tank treads with my melee focused build is because tank treads have a specific feature where if you melee attack something, there's a chance that you just roll over it and destroy it instantly.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with tank treads, because of that recoil reduction, you're less affected by things like grenade launchers. So and like the heavier assault rifles. You don't have to worry about knockback or anything when firing, so. And they have high coverage. They have the highest coverage.
What I think would be fun is, like, if you... Not you specifically, Saine. I realized before I said this started.
You know what would be fun if you...
you, the viewer, it was in your heart all along. If somebody... Thanks,
like, it's me, Dora the Explorer.
To go through the game, and then, like... maybe on a successful run or something, you could, like, draw what your robot wound up looking like an amalgamation of, like, 17 different legs, and you have a grenade launcher on top of your head, and you have just assault rifle wings. I found myself just picturing my robot. I, like, added 3 legs, and, it just...
See, that
Really
was the
fun.
thing for me. I never got crazy. I had 2 engine slots, and the rest were mostly utility slots. So I was two guns, 2 wheels, or whatever. Like, I was never really crazy
There
like
was a
that.
point in time where
The
I
thing
had
is,
like
more,
all I had
more
was
guns
like a
and more
leg.
wheels are really good for you. Melee weapons have really shitty coverage, but guns have really good coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the
more
problem
weapon
with that
slots
is,
or leg slots is more armor.
Yeah, the problem with gun slots is, they get damaged, like, first.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
That's why there's a utility called weapon shielding, which rediverts. There's actually shielding for all of your.
Yeah, I actually had core shielding for a lot of it too, which is part of the reason why I lasted so long.
Core shielding is great.
And then you can also, there are like repair bays that you can use
to repair your equipment.
Yeah, and I've used those quite a bit too.
Yeah.
I actually have never found a repair bay.
I think
They're
you probably
red.
just missed them.
Yeah,
They're big red.
That's probably
Because
boxes.
for the first like 7 runs, you didn't know what to do with terminals, and then you later asked me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you go up."
That
and
was like
press
the
towards
first
them.
like 2 runs. That was mostly because
That's weird,
because
again, I probably talked to you guys less about the game. The only thing I knew is that you want to have something equipped every slot because of coverage. That's literally the only thing I knew about going into the game. And I played 1 run that lasted fucking forever, and I found terminals and I figured stuff out. The game has a lot going for it. My only issue with it is it's very, like, purist roguelike, where it is just dungeon crawling. And I tend to prefer roguelikes that have a little bit more sandbox elements to them.
And yet somehow you don't like Cataclysm.
I don't like Cataclysm because it feels very unbalanced. It feels like I don't like Cataclysm in particular because there are so many enemies that are just so much better than you. And there's so many times where you can be killed by things off screen. You can be swarmed by things you can't deal with. It feels of all of the roguelikes I've played, it feels the most unfair because it feels like they give you the least to fight the most. Like, in Cataclysm, it feels like you're not meant to kill things. Whereas in most roguelikes, if you're hitting a situation where you're not killing things, it's because you've done something wrong, not because like you've either gone to the wrong place or done the wrong thing or built wrong. It's not because you just aren't supposed to kill them. Like,
I mean, for
that's
me,
I don't know.
I agree with your concerns. It's Cataclysm just, I think, has the steepest learning curve, and you have to do specific like when you start
I don't
out the
think
game,
so.
you
I've
can't
played
go into a city.
roguelikes with much steeper learning curves than Cataclysm, I feel like. Like I played Alona, which is this game that's like machine translated from Japanese. And I had an easier time playing that than Cataclysm because that definitely felt like there were places you could tell you were supposed to be at and places where you obviously like shouldn't be at. Like,
well, the thing with Cataclysm is you basically at the start of the game you cannot go into a city. You have to go into like a small, like there are small towns that have like 3 houses. You have to go to those and get lucky, or what most people like to do is just stay at the emergency shelter, tear down the sheets, and craft until they get the appropriate skills to learn.
But that's boring.
I find that insanely boring. And
the thing about Cataclysm is Cataclysm is also struggles for the same problem I have with Sandbox Simulators, like survival sims, because it is at its core a survival sim. You're constantly battling like food and water, and it's like that's not fun. I don't enjoy, like, Cataclysm is like taking probably my favorite genre and putting all of my least favorite things about that genre in it. Like, it's survival elements, it's like kind of the unfairness of certain enemies. It's like, I don't know, it's just this perfect storm of stuff I don't like. And so of all of this, because I fucking play a lot of sandbox games, play a lot of roguelikes, I play a lot of these different things, but it's like this perfect storm of all of this stuff I can't stand.
Yeah.
So I like, as much as we've talked about Cataclysm over and over again, I don't think I will ever enjoy it. So
Right. Yeah.
I enjoyed playing that Wayward game more.
Oof. I couldn't.
Which that game is nothing but survival sim.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know.
Couldn't stand Wayward. I couldn't play the first like 5 minutes of that game. I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Wayward had some issues, man.
The tutorial was like, go break a bush and you'll get this, and I broke 25 bushes until I starved to death.
My problem with Wayward was more that, or specifically Wayward's tutorial was more that I kept on being in situations where I crafted the thing before it asked me to, so it didn't give me credit for crafting it. It happened over and over again because I would not find enough sticks or whatever to build the campfire, or rocks or something to build the campfire, but
so you had to get food.
But I would build like an axe or something so that I could get wood so that I could do something. And then once I finally found enough rocks, or I would make a pickaxe or something, right?
So you could get more rocks. Yeah.
And then I would get more rocks, and then it would say, okay, now take these rocks and build yourself a pickaxe. And it's like, I already have a pickaxe. That's how I got the rocks. Like, so I don't know if that was specifically the example, but I kept on running into that, which just made me, after like the first or second time I did went through a bunch of the steps of the tutorial, I just stopped doing the tutorial, and I had a lot more fun with it. But but yeah, with Wayward, my issue was that in the end, it just became not as fun, like, going through the repetitive tasks of getting food and getting water and crafting shit. Like, after a while, that just got really boring. And that's ultimately what a lot of those survival sims turn into. Even stuff like, we played 7 Days to Die for a while. Like, we picked that up. And that one was like pretty okay at first. We explored, we found zombies and stuff, but we fell into the same problem where it's like, okay, now we're constantly fighting this battle of getting enough food to just play the game. Yeah. And that's not fun. Yeah. So, like, it's one thing. See, that's why my favorite of these sandboxy exploration games are the ones that don't have hunger meters. Like, that's what was so successful, I think, in Zelda Breath of the Wild. It was a super sandboxy game that had food in it, sure, and you needed that as like health recovery items, but other than that, and like status stuff if you wanted to go that way, and even then I don't really do that. Occasionally I'll craft a bunch of stuff just so that I have supplies, but like for the most part I ignore food because boring. Crafting food is boring to me. Yeah. So I would just run around and I don't know, like, that game took the things I like about survival simulators in the free exploration and took out the stuff I don't like, which is the hunger meter. So we've kind of gotten quite a bit off of Cog Mind now, but yeah, like, I enjoy Cog Mind. It's just, it is very, like, purist dungeon crawler, which is fun, but I tend to prefer ones that have a little bit more sandbox element. Basically what I was getting at.
I really enjoy Cog Mind. I would give it, I haven't played a lot of it just because every time I feel like a roguelike, I launch up Cataclysm, because I really do enjoy it, and I feel like the hunger meter specifically is unobtrusive, but all of the other things you complained about, I think, are valid points. I feel unobtrusive.
I mean, hunger and water, it's still like a thing that you have to go after constantly.
Yeah, but anywhere you go in Cataclysm has food. Literally anywhere. So it doesn't seem bad to me. The other points, shit kills you off screen. That fucking sucks. Yeah. Cataclysm isn't the point. Cog Mind, I haven't played a lot of it recently, but I really, really enjoy Cog Mind. I think it's very fun. It's a little expensive. It's got a $20 price point for what is basically a purist roguelike. Yeah. But
I think
recommend
though,
it.
as far as roguelikes go, it's one of the most developed that I've played in a
Yeah,
long time.
it's,
Yeah, and
it's
honestly-
very well refined. I would say it's worth the price point.
And to me, it feels like even though it is a purist roguelike that's very it looks like a roguelike, it has like it's not entirely ASCII, like it does have like
Unless your
some-
system corruption.
Well,
gets
I don't.
taken
I
care
mean, I don't think that.
Yeah.
Like even the ASCII thing, like I play NetHack with tiles,
Yeah.
so like
but yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it is a purist roguelike, I feel like it's really accessible. Like you can sort of just pick up and play and know how to play it. Just go.
well, a little bit yes and a little bit no. I was actually feeling like it was one of the ones that I really kind of had to pay attention to the tutorials more than other ones
Mm.
That-
because
There's also a help menu in it that I basically think you should read every single part of the help
I
menu.
didn't bother with the help menu, but I definitely read all of the starting tutorials. And some of it I just kind of picked up on my own. Like I figured out terminals pretty easily. Like I figured out the kind of comparing and contrasting the parts stuff with right click. So like sometimes I would have to go and look up a key. Like I don't like when weight isn't assigned to spacebar, it's assigned to period in this game. So I don't like go look up what the weight key was in Cog Mind, which was period, which I think it's period in a few other games, but I don't know.
I usually use the numpad for roguelikes, and I think usually they just have weight on numpad 5 too.
Yeah. I think this
Yeah.
game has like weight on
I'm not
scroll
sure.
wheel.
I was
too.
using mouse. Oh yeah, scroll wheel
Yeah,
up
it
and
does have
down.
scroll wheel.
I
that's
was
right.
using the mouse actually more than anything else.
Oh yeah.
Which is really
This-
nice. It of all of the modern roguelikes I've played, it has some of the best mouse support.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The Doom roguelike has pretty good mouse support. If I remember.
Yeah, the other one that has good
Don't
mouse
you mean-
support is
D asterisk asterisk MRL.
Yeah, that one.
the other one. Oh, what's that? That one that is a bit more sandboxy. Caves of Quid.
Oh yeah. I love
That one's has some of the best mouse support too.
I love
I think
Caves-
Cogmind actually might be a little bit better than that, but
Cogmind is.
the nice thing about Caves of Quid though is it also has a very good contextual hotkey.
Yeah.
And that one actually also replaces space, but that's a little bit more forgivable because
Mhm.
it does everything. So
Yeah.
space is really nice.
Yeah.
The problem with Caves of Quid was just
It's
that
so
one
hard
was a
to
little bit
start.
grindy
Yeah.
Mhm.
because
It's also really fucking hard to start out. Like.
it's not. The problem is it's grindy. That's what I'm saying. Like with Caves of Quid, it's not that you can't fight things that won't kill you. It's that you have to fight a lot of things that won't kill you before you can start fighting the things that can kill you. So it means that you have to spend more time just killing the same shit until you level up enough that you can actually deal with other stuff.
mm,
So I've actually gotten kind of far, like not. I mean, the game is Caves of Quid in particular is really big, but
Yeah.
I've sunk several hours into Caves of Quid in a single run, and it does take a lot of killing things that you know you can kill until you get to a place where you can start
Like,
fighting, like going into the dungeon and killing all of the gnolls and stuff. It takes a while.
shit. I feel like that's just a direction problem then, because the very first quest it gives you in the game, every single time you start the game, is go kill this gnoll. that
It
you
doesn't
don't
give you
kill.
that by default. You have to talk to people in the town. People in the town give you that quest. So it's not
Yeah,
like
well, what else are you gonna do in the town? You start in the town, you're gonna talk to people, right?
I mean,
Or
sure.
are you just gonna fuck off and?
What I'm kind of saying though is it's yes, that is the first quest, and you can, if you get lucky and have a good build, you can do that. Like it's
I've-
possible to do it. The only thing is, like I think that you're just more successful wandering around for a while.
Right.
So I don't know. And that one also has a water system that can be a little bit obtrusive at times. It's
Yeah,
not
'cause
too
your
bad,
water
but
is also your money.
is it? I didn't really buy
Yes.
stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know, cause
You can haggle with items, but pure water is money. If you sell people shit, they will give you pure water. And if you want to buy something without
Well, no,
trading
because
it-
there's also that vendor who buys scrap pieces from you and stuff.
That's true, yeah.
So I don't know. I like, other than the one. I mean, I've never seen another town in that game, so I don't really know what other towns are like. But
Right.
I don't know. I think that pure water is just a decent store of value. So
Right.
Anyway, why don't we move on? Because we've been talking about roguelikes for kind of longer than I meant to.
In the end, I would like to say Cogmind releases on Steam on October 16th. So
But it's already available on GOG.
Yeah.
No, it is available on their website.
Okay.
So I bought it from their website, and it releases on Steam soon. They will not give you a Steam key if you buy it from their website. So don't buy it from them thinking that you will get a Steam key later. But you do get immediate access to the game. If you want to hold off on Steam, I'm sure the price point will also be $20 there, or around about that area.
Yeah.
But I would recommend it. It is good, and I would say it's worth the price if you're into roguelikes.
So, okay, that's enough about Cog Mind. Overall, I thought it was pretty good. Let's talk about Star Wars Battlefront.
Oh yeah, that's
Okay,
right. We
that's
did
a good
both play
idea.
that. Oh, before we do that, I would like to just make a retroactive our government mandate comic book segue. Cuphead has the same plot as Ghost Rider.
Really? You
Gotta
make it
get
real-
them souls,
Okay.
cause you sold your soul to the devil.
So let's talk about comic books for an hour, shall we?
All right. Anyway, Battlefront.
Yeah.
There are Star Wars comic books we can talk about that are dumb as hell.
I heard they were. I've actually heard mixed things about the comic books, but
It depends on the comic, honestly.
yeah.
just
I
like
heard the
said-
Darth Vader series that came out recently is supposedly really, really good.
Oh, okay.
Because it kind of... I think the problem with Darth Vader in Star Wars is that he was always an interesting character who never seemed fleshed out enough in the movies.
Yeah.
And so any good
Even when they
comic
went
book
back
or
and made
series
3
or
movies
book
about
or
him.
whatever related to Darth Vader has to develop his character well, and
I don't know.
some have done
I
it
kind
well.
I feel like in the original trilogy, excluding like in the third movie, in Return of the Jedi, they do a pretty good of fleshing out Vader. I feel like the first movie, he's literally just a big mook man.
Dark
who
Helmet.
is- Yeah, big mook man who's the right hand man, the big punch man,
I
of
mean,
the actual bad guy.
It seems like his motivations don't seem super clear though. Whereas I think a lot of, especially that comic book I was talking about, the recent Darth Vader series, does a really good job of. I think it takes place after the episode 4 and before episode 5, and it talks about, or it's basically him undermining the Chancellor because he's like basically making a bid for power to get rid of the Chancellor. So and then ends up not
Sure,
working
sure,
out because
okay.
of the plot of the movie that like goes on, but he does things like he starts being restricted in some of his I don't know, like things he's allowed to do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So I
let's
made a
talk about
joke
the
us
video
talking
game.
about
Yeah.
comic books, yeah.
He's trying to get a bid to remove Palpatine.
So-
What should we call our new weapon? Death Star!
Don't you
Okay,
think that'll
Death
come up
Star. The Emperor says we name it Murder Fuck.
So let me explain what is.
Oh, I guess
what
I'll
is in the game.
clarify and say beta.
Yeah, beta, yeah. We'll
How
play the
about
actual fucking game.
Dice Star Wars Battlefront 2? Might work better, I
EA
don't know.
presents DICE
Whatever,
presents
they know what
trademark
we're
Star
talking
Wars
about.
trademark
It's
Battlefront
the
2.
new Battlefront, the one that is styled like
Oh,
Battlefield.
actually, that reminds me. I want to talk about the old Battlefront too, but
Oh, yeah, well, we can do that in a
We
bit,
can
yeah.
get into that.
Yeah.
So the Battlefront 2 beta has 3 maps. One is a space battle in which 2 factions are you're like
Spaceships and shoot each other.
it's basically X-wing versus TIE fighter, and some players play as Y-wing bombers that have to drive up to the Imperial Star Destroyer and bomb it, and then
I actually didn't get to play that mode because for whatever reason my client crashed every time I tried to load that version or that thing. So I never, I didn't even actually know if it was real or not.
it
It
existed.
was real, yeah.
I actually did really good at that because I'm good at X-wing versus TIE fighter. Just bragging a little bit there. It feels like that one was weighted very heavily. We'll get into balance, I think.
Yeah.
This is a good segue. It feels like that one was rated very heavily towards the Rebels because all the Rebels had to do was use their constant stream of 8 or 9 Y-wings at a time and just drive them into the Star Destroyer, and then you got to respawn as a new Y-wing and
Just kamikaze it.
yeah, basically. And then the TIE fighters had to destroy the Y-wings, every single one, because each time a Y-wing got in there, it like made the thing move slower. You had to destroy every single Y-wing. You had to fight off all of the dogfighters trying to kill you. You had to like there was so much for the TIE fighters to do to defend this thing, and all the Rebels had to do was just keep sending dudes at you, and one of them would get through eventually.
So the other mode was Galactic Assault, and the map that they had available for that game was Naboo,
which was showcased at E3, so you probably know the idea behind that.
And my problem was in the same way. It felt very weighted in the favor of the clones.
Yeah.
Because and it was for the same reason, I think. Like the clones had the objective of destroying this moving tank thing with iron disruptors.
Ion disruptors.
Yeah, and that would bring down their shields so that you could shoot the ship thing. Whereas the the CIS, the robot guys,
right.
Their only goal was to basically protect it.
Escort it, yeah.
Yeah, escort it. So it's like, in the same situation, it was like, both sides could kill each other, but one side's goal was to kill the other side, where the other one had this other goal that actually would lead them to winning that game, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, they both could kill each other, but the clones had the added benefit of also being able to destroy the ship.
Yeah.
So like,
See,
it felt very weighted to me.
In the spaceship mode, a rebel would just spawn as a Y-wing and kamikaze the Star Destroyer, right? Which means no thought. You spawn as the Y-wing and your objective is go to the Star Destroyer and fucking bomb it. In the Galactic Conquest mode, the clone troopers would spawn and have to go all the way over to the ion cannon and pick it up to win the game. And nobody was interested in doing that, in my experience. Everybody just wanted to go kill robots.
I think you were just having a bad early few games, because as soon as we started playing together, the three of us, it totally changed, and then
it did, but that was because me, you, and Thel were all going for the ion.
That's not true. No, that's not. It wasn't just us, though. There were definitely other people who were doing it.
Right.
Well, here's the thing.
Both times we played in that mode, the droids got to the palace, and we wound up winning there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, even if other people did bother with doing the ion disruptor stuff, it's still weighted in the clones, because when you get to the palace, all you have to do is defend from the.
That's true. Yeah. So that is a fair point.
Yeah.
Even if you fail the ion disruptor, the clones then just have like a point defense mode.
And I think that's why a lot of people just were running around shooting robots, because they were like, whatever, they're gonna move the thing to the palace and we'll just fucking win then.
Yeah. So the only time you could really lose as the clones was when the other team were just better at killing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like,
And we spent most of our time playing as the clones.
Yeah, I never.
I didn't. I actually played. Well, yes, you did, because I remember you saying you never once played, and then you did. So,
Yeah.
but I think that I probably played about even. Like, I don't know. You just had bad luck or something getting swapped back and forth, or kept on getting swapped to the clones or something. But I played on both sides, and I don't know. There was the other mode that was like, it was essentially single capture the flag, single flag capture the flag. It was the one that took place on Endor, on a small slice of Endor. That mode was probably the most fun out of all of them for me.
It was a much smaller battle.
Yeah, there were I think it was like,
it was
16 on 16.
Basically capture the flag. Like,
that's what I was saying, single flag capture the flag.
It was single side capture the flag. One person had to defend. One group had to defend the flag. The other group had to grab it.
That's what single flag capture the flag is.
Is it? Oh, I thought single flag capture the flag was both sides going for a middle neutral flag. But
no, that would be neutral flag.
Okay.
But
fair enough.
I mean, I don't know. But yeah, like that mode was more fun because it felt more impactful to kill people.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that you had to really be killing a lot of people on Galactic Conquest for it to matter.
To do anything, yeah.
That's kind of how Battlefront is a little bit.
Well, here's the thing. In the original Battlefront 2, and I'm not going to get super deep into it because we want to talk about it later. In the original Battlefront 2,
well, you can't get into it. We'll talk to both of them now.
Even if you killed one person, it would still take down their still
every map in the original Battlefront had a limited number of spawns.
Yeah,
right.
And it'd be like 100 and something. But
this game also has something similar to that, but it's a lot more
Only
because I think
side.
the time to kill is so much lower in this game.
Yeah, that's too.
Well, usually it's only on one side too. Like one side has unlimited troops, and then like the sieging side
has to do the
run out of
objective and
troops.
like
has to do the objective without running out of troops.
It's
So the people
basically
who
it's
have
like a
to-
timer.
Right.
Yeah. It's like
So-
it's like attack and defend, but the attackers have a limited number of people also.
Yeah.
That being said, it was better of what I remember from the original Star Wars Battlefront, or not the original.
From DICE.
the DICE
Star Wars Battlefront 1.
Yeah.
Star Wars Battlefront 2000.
I can't believe they just used the same name without any other modifiers.
Same.
I have one issue with the beta, like one glaring issue that may prevent me from even buying the game or being interested in it at all. At no point in time did I ever have the option to spawn in as a droideka.
I think that was weird. Because I think the game is more set up than ever for it now.
Yeah.
But I think
droidekas were definitely around in the Naboo battle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the first game, you could play as droidekas.
Droidekas have existed for a long time.
I don't know. Like, the thing about it is, I think that they were trying to be, I feel like they didn't want to have to balance it in a way that it was too asymmetrical. Right. I think that it's to the extent where the droids have rocket troopers. They have super battle droids that are rocket troopers, and they're essentially identical to the other side. What?
They have like rocket jumps and shit.
Yeah, there's two super battle droids. There's one that is just a normal super battle droid, and on the hero's side they have Chewbacca instead, which is worse than a super battle droid. But and then they have a jet trooper who is identical on both sides, except one is a super battle droid and one is a clone trooper. So I think they were just trying. It's weird because they have Chewbacca there for no reason. He didn't even exist yet. And that is an asymmetrical part, but they don't have like droidicas, which is
What they could do
would have been like
put a droidica on the droid side, the CIS side, and then on the clone side they could just have a Samus Aran with morph ball capabilities and 2 arm blasters.
so like the whole thing. I guess one of my principal complaints with Star Wars Battlefront 2, the new one, is that there's so much less content than the original game.
Yeah.
It's like weird because if you look at it has like, what was it? What was the final count? Like 12 maps or something?
Yeah, it was
versus like 24 from the original Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yeah. It in the original Star Wars Battlefront, there were like also multiple ways to play each map. Like,
and there were vehicles sitting around that you could jump in. That's another like huge thing from the original Battlefront that did not have it was not in Dice Battlefront. The vehicles sitting around the map, like I get they wanted to lock them behind basically people doing good to get the vehicles, but in the original Battlefront and Battlefront 2, I think maybe only Battlefront 2, they had multiple seat vehicles. So you could jump in a vehicle and then your friend could jump in the gun turret and you could drive around with both of them. I know for sure.
I think there were a couple, but I mean, it was never really a good plan. I don't know.
Yeah, it was fun.
It worked really well in the original Battlefront. Yeah.
Regardless of what he means, a good plan to jump into like 2 of you to be in the same vehicle.
Yeah, because most of the time you were better off. It's
Having
like
yeah.
if you think about it, it's like if you have 2 fighters, for instance, then you have twice the firepower. Whereas if you have 1 fighter, it's like 1.5 times the firepower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, but it's whatever.
My point is that it was a different way to play, and it was fun. You know, who doesn't want to jump into a fucking gun turret with their buddy and drive around and kill people? Like that's fun.
I don't know. That's kind of.
I find it fun anyway.
Yeah, I felt like it was a really good idea because, like, specifically on maps like Hoth and the other one, the one where the battle in Clone Wars took place, Geonosis. In those maps, like, it completely changed like the way that game was played, where there was like a battle on the ground with the troops trying to take over, take over the control points if you're doing conquest. And there's also like the battle with all of the big ships fighting each other, and like if you're a troop you can also go like heavy troop to try and take a rocket and try and blow them up, or you can just completely ignore that altogether.
Or you could be a Geonosian soldier, and only on the map Geonosis you could be a flying insect man with like Lucio's sound blaster. Whereas
you can also get in one of those turrets in Geonosis and use those to join either the fight with the big battle bots or the little guys on the ground.
So it's so weird because it's like it's not even as if this is like stripped out so that they can add stuff later to DLC. It just feels like they're putting less in it. It's not even like an issue of them like intentionally stripping stuff out. It's just them not wanting to put as much content in it as games used to have.
And it's weird because Battlefield definitely has like tanks that you can just jump in, you and like 3 of your buddies, and just be a tank crew in Battlefield.
I think you're getting a little bit more hung up on the vehicles, but I just mean in general. Like, I mean content in general. I don't mean like specifically with vehicles.
And you would think that like what they would do, because this is EA, you would think what they would do is they were just going to have like a low amount of maps baseline and then add a bunch of them in like map packs for DLC, because EA is an evil corporation. But they don't even do that. It's so weird.
Well, actually, in this game,
with Dice Battlefront 1.
They did it with Dice Battlefront 1.
Did they?
But even then, like
even
if
then
you
it wasn't
looked at
right.
it, the number of maps was still less than the original Battlefront.
Right.
This one, they're releasing all of the maps free, but they have microtransaction systems with the crates.
Yeah.
Which is another whole issue because
Which I think we have some news about it. Should we just get into it when that?
yeah,
comes up
we might as
instead?
well just talk about it right now because it's part of the
Oh,
game.
yeah, alright, fuck it.
So, there's been a lot of controversy lately about Star Wars Battlefront 2, the new DICE's Star Wars Battlefront 2,
Yeah.
being essentially pay to win.
Mhm.
Because, like, and on top of being pay to win, also being randomized behind loot boxes, right?
Right.
So there are in these loot boxes there are cards that they're called star cards that are straight up numerical upgrades to skills.
There are also different weapons, which some of them are.
Some of them are
better
replacers,
than
which are
others.
side grades, but even then there are 5 levels of each card. So even the side grades, like you can get a level 2 of one of the side grades
Mhm.
or a level 5 of one of the side
Yeah.
grades, and it's just better.
Like
So,
I
like-
believe on my officer, to give a specific example, he has an ability which can. Oh shit, I forget what. Oh yeah, he has a flashbang, right? The officer has a flashbang,
Hmm.
but there is a card which replaces his flashbang ability with like a field that destroys explosives. Okay, that sounds reasonable, right? You lose the ability to blind somebody, but you can stop your allies from. I was like, that sounds fun. I'll do that. But I got a level 1 explosive popper. And it was like this tiny little field around me. And I found out later that if you get a bigger one, it'll go from like this big to like this big around you. So like it's the difference between like if you want to use that ability, you're better off just opening a ton of loot boxes until you get it. Until then, the flashbang's probably a better choice.
And then, well, even then, who knows, right?
Yeah. But that's the other thing. The flashbang doesn't have.
It's a little bit harder with side grades, but like there are ones that are more egregious. Like Total Biscuit came out with a video, and this is one of the ones that he pointed out. For some of the space battles, they're like you can get those cards for spaceships. One of the like there are ones that are just straight up you do more percentage damage, and it goes from like 5% to 40% or something. And then there's also one that reduces your heat buildup when you fire, and then that's also by a percentage. So
Now, if
those
there
both
were-
increase your DPS. So
If there were downsides, that would be better. Like the
right,
heat-
or
the
even
heat
like
buildup, you do more damage, build up more heat, and then you have to also have the heat buildup card to negate that. And
yeah,
then-
or some
heat buildup
form
card
of like
takes
maybe
the-
you could only have like 10 points worth of cards, right? So you had to
Yeah.
choose which cards you selected.
But
Instead,
even then, new players would still be screwed out
Right.
of it.
well, unless they gave you starter ones that were
Right.
equivalent, but these, and that's the thing, like if there weren't side grades, if they just gave ones that were only side grades, then it would be more similar to
Yeah.
something like TF2, because
Yeah.
technically all of the guns are supposed to be balanced against each other. Whether or not
They
they
aren't
are is a
necessarily,
different story.
But
but-
the idea is
Yeah.
that.
And none of them, like, and then you get random crates so you can randomly open them up, and that's kind of how you progress. But at the base level, if you play like the demo man's main grenade launcher is pretty good. His main
Yeah.
sticky bomb launcher is pretty good, and his main melee weapon, whatever it is pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
you will get by with them. Sure, there are other ones
And
that
if
might
you-
be better for your
if you
play
have,
style,
like,
but those are
The
side
charge and targe, you lose sticky bombs, which is one of the demo man's strong things, and the charge and targe is great, but yeah.
yeah. So those like they have
Whereas
drawbacks to them, whereas this game it's just straight a numerical advantage.
yeah,
That
Yeah.
you might have or someone else might have instead of you. And I think part of what makes it shitty to play against is that it makes and this is actually one of the reasons League of Legends is changing how they're doing runes, is that it makes a lot of power hidden. It
Yeah.
means that you don't know when someone well, I guess when they kill you, it does show show you their card loadouts, but
Mhm.
it's like unless you know what all the cards are, you're being killed
Yeah.
by someone else who just seems better than you and you don't know why.
In theory, if two people with side grades, ideally, if two people with side grades of something, two robots, say, start shooting each other at the exact same moment, they should die at the exact same time. And the side grades should affect how you control the gun and stuff like that. But there shouldn't
Or
be
have
cards that
trade-offs,
just
like
give you
giving up one ability
40%
for
more
another.
damage. Yeah. Like giving up flashbang for getting rid of explosives, that sounds great. That makes me even more supportive, and that's what the officer's supposed to do. But having a card that gives me 40% more damage, if that say I have no cards, then I have nothing. Like,
Yeah.
sure, the cards are side grades to each other. Like, you can choose between 40% more health or 40% more damage, right? But if you have nothing, then you have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, and it's more. I guess it's more. The problem here is more than it just being pay to win, too. Like, it's not just that it's really unfair that people can spend money and just be better than you. The other side of it is it's bad game design. It makes the game
Yeah.
less fun
Yeah.
in general. So it's like putting the system in there is kind of burning it at both ends. So it just makes me less and less interested in this game. And I had some fun with that game. Like, I didn't dislike it.
It was fun. I liked running around and shooting people.
To me, I probably wouldn't pay full price for it, but I don't know. That's just me. I thought that there were plenty of people who I could see enjoying this game at full price, but for me, I didn't, so I probably wouldn't. But this like microtransaction system, the way they have it implemented, and like I'm not even one of those people who are that against loot boxes. Like, some people really hate loot boxes because they feel predatory to some certain people. But I don't even care about that. Like, I'm fine with how it's implemented in Overwatch, let's say.
Yeah. Like PUBG.
You can get them just by playing the game, and all it gives you is cosmetics.
Yeah.
Even if it gave you like side grades, like TF2,
we should say PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds as it exists today, because it might change.
Yeah, currently.
But like, I don't know, when you have it this bad, where it's directly influencing like numerical stats, and it's even random drops, like, that sucks.
Even like TF2 loot boxes. First off, what everybody wants out of TF2 loot boxes are hats, but you can get weapons out of them. There's some weapons, like somebody who starts TF2 is not going to have the Conniver's Kunai.
But even then, a lot of the crates you spend money on, though, aren't the ones that give. I mean, some of them might, like, they might give strange versions of it, but a lot of those give purely cosmetic like stuff. Like, all of the stuff in that's good is cosmetic stuff. There's less of, like, a lot of the. Usually you get weapons and stuff through drops, unless you get special versions of those weapons, like skinned versions or strange versions of those weapons. But most of it's cosmetic otherwise. And then even the strange, all that does is it puts what is essentially a counter on your weapon. So, like, it's just different.
And in this, I don't understand, because I mean, I'm thinking of this from like a business standpoint, and I see why they would want to do this. Like, they make more money, but if you look at like the really, really fucking successful first-person shooters going on here, Overwatch and PUBG both have the exact same thing. So why aren't they just like, let's do the exact same fucking thing they're doing and put like a cowboy hat on the stormtrooper or the robot or something?
I think that PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds might be a hard comparison, because that game in particular is sort of an anomaly, I would say. But
that's true, but it's definitely leading the pack, and you'd think that a business would look at that and say, I want to do
it's too late in the development cycle for them to really take any notes from that game.
Oh
yet.
yeah.
So
that is true.
Whereas Overwatch has been out for more than a year, like they could take notes from Overwatch.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I thought about this game. It's like I could be playing Overwatch right now and trying to get my golden gun, but no, I'm playing this game.
You're gonna get your golden gun soon.
I'm gonna get my golden gun. I'm really close.
No, I mean, like, literally without touching it again. You're gonna get your golden gun because the season ends and you're gonna get a bunch of coins.
Yeah, fair.
Well, I want to play for Halloween because a bunch of Halloween stuff comes out.
I agree.
Today, I think.
That all
Today
comes
or
out
tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah. Tomorrow.
It's Tuesdays. Tuesdays is Blizzard patch day.
It's always been.
That's also release day. A lot of video games.
Yeah.
Or is it Thursday? Yeah. Anyway.
Well, either way, Tuesday is Blizzard patch day.
Yeah. Excuse me.
But yeah, so like it's really I think EA is just trying to push the envelope as far as they can now. Like they're just trying to see what they can get away with.
Yeah.
And it's been happening a lot this year.
Push the envelope of greed. That's what EA is. EA is
seeing
how
far they can get away with it. So it's like, and it's not just them. Like
it's not.
So
it really isn't.
Just this year so far, there's been this Star Wars Battlefront, which has like numerical upgrades. There's been Warner Brothers with Shadow of War, which has in a single player game. Well, they do have sort of a multiplayer mode, but they have loot boxes that you can buy that drop special orcs that have different traits. And in the end game multiplayer stuff, which the true ending is locked behind it, by the way. You have to well, not the multiplayer part, but there's like this really grindy bit at the end called Shadow Wars, and that part the true ending is locked behind. But there's also this multiplayer aspect, and in the multiplayer aspect there's like a fun version and a ranked version, and in the ranked version your orcs can die, which means like if you were to have bought loot boxes and got that orc as a drop, that could just be lost, right?
That makes that oh god, that actually makes it worse than just special orcs in a single player. Special orcs in a single player game, you could just argue, well, it's the same thing as DLC. You get a special orc and that's your new orc that's in the game. It's the same thing as microtransaction DLC, right?
So
but
it's even
the fact
worse.
That you can subjugate it and put it into multiplayer. That makes it even worse.
Yeah, so that means that you buy orcs that could just be better out of loot boxes than other people's, and they can die, which means you could lose that investment, right?
Of actual money,
right? And so, like, it's, like, Warner Bros. with Shadow of War is, like, almost at every level it feels dirty and slimy.
Yeah.
Then there was also Forza Motorsport, which had a bunch of people were calling it pay to earn, because what it locks behind is mods, so-called mods, which alter the races that you go on to give you more credits. So you unlock a loot box, or you buy a loot box, and when you open the loot box, it drops, like, say a mod that's like nighttime mod, and then on a race you can use the nighttime mod on that race to give you 50% more credits or something. So like and then you have to use those credits to unlock stuff in the game, like new cars and stuff. But that's always been there. You use credits to unlock cars and stuff, but but the mod thing is now like locked behind loot boxes, where it was just an option before. Before, it was one of the ways you could choose how to affect your difficulty. So like, oh, I want to do a race mod because that would make it harder, right? And then you get more credits as a bonus. Now that costs money to do that. So that's been like that one has been a controversial one, and I think that Microsoft has been backpedaling on that one because people really don't like that. Or it's Microsoft. I think Microsoft's just the publisher. I don't know who the developer is of that game, but Forza Motorsport, the new one.
Possible that Microsoft was the one who made him do it.
I mean, maybe not though, but because Microsoft doesn't tend to do that with a lot of that sort of thing with a lot of their games. So that one, it feels like it might be the developer. I don't know. Either way, though, it doesn't matter because ultimately the product is from both of them. Then there's also NBA, the NBA 2K17 or whatever. That one, the economy in that game is so bad that you have to play like 20 hours for the same thing that costs like $5. And then even like basic cosmetic changes cost like a hell of a lot of money. So like your haircut, there's like one free haircut in the game, and you have to spend a bunch of money to change your character's haircut. In-game money to change like the basic stuff. On top of that, which you wouldn't even want to spend money on haircuts, because there's also numerical advantages and stats on the character too. And the only way you can increase those stats is by using those coins or whatever that you can play for like 20 hours or spend $5. Like, that one is even worse about how bad it is.
Especially bad because it's a sports game. So it's like legitimately just preying on people who don't play video games and don't know about this shit and how egregious it is.
Still though, even I would say the majority of Star Wars Battlefront 2 players are not going to be people like us who have more information about the gaming industry.
Well, yeah. And
like it's going to be
like
the majority of it is going to be like casual gamers. Period.
I mean, but sports games are like especially.
I don't know. I don't think that it's any different really.
I would say so. I would almost say that they're like there are people who buy like the sports game every year, like with
the new Madden, and like that's it.
There are like two games they buy. They buy the new Madden and the new Call of Duty game, and that's it. Because that's all they.
I mean,
sort of
yes,
see video games as.
But I think that most gamers are like that. That's the thing. We're in a weird bubble where we play a lot of games. We pay attention to the news about games. But most gamers, right, aren't that. So, like, it's not any better that it's in a sports game, or any worse, really. It's just as bad.
I still feel like there's a middle ground.
Yeah.
And actually, sports games have been leading the way in these kind of practices. Like, they have that Ultimate Team mode, which is like, it's the equivalent of, like, fantasy football, but in a video game form.
Right.
Where you can kind of recruit basically any player from any team and whatever, and you build your roster of characters. But these characters cost like money, like actual money. And again, it's like booster packs of this, so it's almost like playing a card game, but at least something like Magic the Gathering, you were buying a collection of things that have real resale value, whereas this, like, they don't. Yeah. To the extent that
if you bought baseball cards, you were hoping that you'd sell your collection for $1,000 in the future.
Yeah. Well, that's
hoping.
Everything in Magic the Gathering has real value, even if it's a dime, right? Even if it's like a penny, land in Magic the Gathering is worth something, but even more so than I would say baseball cards. There are a lot of baseball cards that are actually worthless, but and then so like you start trying to compare it to stuff like Hearthstone, and Hearthstone doesn't feel as bad because it's more similar to a real life card game. Even still, in Hearthstone, those cards don't have any resale value. They don't have nothing. They're essentially worthless.
Hearthstone or like Gwent or any of those other digital card games,
right?
You still spend money on booster packs exactly like a regular.
And they get away with it because it's more similar to how it is in real life. Whereas you would not get away with the same. You would not get away with what you get away with in Hearthstone in Overwatch. Period.
Yeah. Like you could not.
Not to mention that it would screw up the balance of the game, but like.
Yeah. But like, yeah, like in Hearthstone, you get a card, and that's still going to improve you. Like, you're gonna get more out of a booster pack than you would buying like something in one of these like single
I don't know.
player,
Even
like
in
Shadow
sports
of
games,
War.
though, it's in the sports games though. Like loot boxes is the same thing to a booster pack. It's
Yeah.
it's another name for a booster pack. So we're getting closer and closer to this issue.
Right.
I think that
I feel that it is forgivable in those card games though, just because that's how that's like the foundation of card
But that's
games,
what I'm
is buying
saying,
booster
like,
packs, yeah.
in real card games though, you have some physical worth, whereas in video games they don't. So like you're not even able to like sell anything because that's against the terms of service or
Yeah,
whatever,
you
and that'll
could
get your account suspended.
You could disenchant them for dust to get different cards, but that's not like money.
Right.
That's completely different.
So even like if I decided that I never wanted to play Magic the Gathering ever again, I have a couple of decks sitting up on my bookshelf that I could just sell.
Yeah,
I could.
and
They
you
might
probably
not
get, like,
make me any money, but I could.
maybe you get like $40 for every card you have. Maybe
Yeah,
if you have
maybe.
really good cards, you could get
Yeah.
some more.
Yeah.
I know that like Flashgen goes to Friday. Our friend goes to Friday Night Magic every night, and every
Friday.
Every Friday,
Yeah.
every Friday.
Friday Night
Every-
Magic every day.
every
Every day is
and
Friday night. Yeah, boys.
every couple of weeks, he's like, "Wow, I got this really good." Like, anybody who doesn't know what Friday Night Magic is, you basically go, you get a bunch of booster packs. Everybody goes around and drafts a deck, and then they play against each other. And you get to keep the cards you draft.
Yeah,
And
but it
there's
costs
just
money.
a base buy. Yeah, there's just a little buy. There's a buy-in to the event, but you buy. Basically, you're buying the booster packs to play
Right.
at that event.
Yeah.
And every 2 or 3 weeks, Flashgen comes to me and says, "Dude, I got this like $30 card at Friday Night Magic," and it's like he pays $30 to go to it, and it's something he gets to do, and it's fun for him. And then basically, if he wanted to sell those cards, he'd make his money back.
Yeah.
Whereas
And-
if you wanted to enter a Hearthstone tournament, you'd buy 25 booster packs, and
then you get nothing out of it.
Yeah, then you get
Yeah.
nothing back.
If
wouldn't
you decided to
have the
quit
opportunity.
Hearthstone because you
Then it's
don't
just
enjoy it
just-
anymore for whatever
yeah.
reason, then you all of your invested time or money is worthless. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm not like my intention wasn't really to get into the rabbit hole that was Hearthstone, but like I think that this is the year where where game developers are really trying to push the envelope, and
Greed envelope.
Right.
Like, we say push the envelope, and when I hear that, I think like, okay, we're doing it. We're making something that's bigger and better and more
well, it
advanced
just
than
means
was
means
before.
trying to get away with something.
Yeah.
That be that a good thing or a bad thing. Like they're trying to
Yeah.
push the envelope, trying to get away with as much of this microtransaction stuff as they can.
Yeah.
And I think that
They're trying to slip it past.
I think we'll have
I
to
don't know
see at the end
how.
of the year if this stuff, like
Sticks or
if
not.
gamers or you know gamers as a whole decide to stand for it.
I
And
just like I don't know why they're still trying. Like we had something like remember Dead Space 3 where you could literally pay for ammunition in the middle of a fight. Everybody basically hated Dead Space 3 just because of
well,
that.
not just
Yeah.
because of that. The game is also
Fucking trash.
it wasn't necessarily
cash grab?
trash, but it was not Dead Space.
Yeah.
Right.
So they changed the game so fundamentally that like so it had other issues other than that, which is why that game didn't succeed. But
Yeah.
the Star Wars Battlefront 2 is going to sell millions of copies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It already
But the question-
probably
The
has.
question is the data going to show that it sold millions of copies? And they look at that and say, "Oh, this microtransaction thing is working." Or will they look and see nobody's buying the microtransactions because they're bullshit and say, "Well, we sold millions of copies, but nobody bought the microtransactions, which was our whole economic strategy, so maybe we need to do something."
It's not though. Like you cannot. The thing is, you can spend zero money on microtransactions in that game, and you will have already paid $60 for it, so they will already have made their money back. So it will not
Yeah.
hurt them.
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
actually don't want to support the practice, you have to not buy the game. But the problem is, like, it's Star Wars, so everyone will buy it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But do you think that they would look at the data and see that everybody bought it and nobody bought microtransactions and say,
I don't.
maybe we need to do
I don't
something
think
else?
that'll affect it. Like, I don't, because they might change their strategy with how they implement microtransactions if nobody buys the microtransactions, because ultimately they want the microtransactions to be alluring enough that people buy them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it actually behooves you to make the microtransactions innocuous and interesting enough that people don't want to, that are willing to put money down on it. I think part of the problem with Star Wars is, and this is something someone else said, I don't even remember, it might have been Total Biscuit, I don't remember, but maybe Disney is like very aware of how their characters are supposed to look in Star Wars, so they are less willing to allow cosmetic DLC that changes Boba Fett into like pink flying wizard guy. I don't know.
That.
You know what I
But-
mean? So
but that said, even in The Last Jedi, like the stormtroopers had like a bunch of different stormtroopers had kind of like little flare and stuff on their armor. You know, like you can
Yes,
identify
but
a few of them.
I mean, yes, but I think that because you can go less crazy with it, it's a little bit
It's less
harder.
likely, yeah.
for them
could
to
still do
figure
things
it
like
out.
you could still do things like sell, okay, like Han Solo's in the game, right? You could still sell like you could have a costume for Han Solo that's from like the original trilogy, and then you could have like old Han Solo.
I mean,
and
yeah,
then-
I get what you're saying, but I think that the number of things you could do would be limited, right?
yeah, it's
And it couldn't be drastic enough that, like, because I mean, would you really pay $5 for old Han Solo versus young Han Solo? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, no, but
so I don't know. Like, the thing about Overwatch is they have a lot of room to do whatever they want, because ultimately it's
yeah,
Like Blizzard
Like-
owns all of
Yeah.
the
like
IP,
May's Halloween skin is a Jiangxi Chinese vampire, and it's great. But that has like, why would you?
I mean, that has
Wants-
nothing to do
wants
with
to dress up as-
Overwatch lore, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it doesn't matter because
Yeah,
They
it's like
know.
it's
That
Chinese,
lore.
so let's do that. Yeah, well, it does, but it's loose enough that you
Yeah,
can just make
yeah.
a skin and it doesn't affect anything.
plus
Yeah.
it's Halloween, so like technically those characters could just be in
Just
costume.
be dressing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
and-
a character from China would dress up like a Chinese vampire. That makes sense.
yeah, and Disney might think it would be kind of weird if you had a Darth Maul Jiangxi skin.
Yeah.
Also, because that shit would end up on Wikipedia as fucking canon, I guarantee.
Everything ends up on Wikipedia. Wikipedia has a page titled boobs.
You. A breast and also
Breast.
chair.
anyway,
Anyway, back on fucking
So-
bullshit Star Wars lore.
so like I maybe that's part of it, but that's still like they should have found a way around it. And honestly, they don't really need microtransactions in a game that costs full price anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it would be one thing if those, like, star cards or whatever, it would be one thing if the game was free.
Or
And-
even if there were no monetary microtransactions. Like if it were still kind
Right,
of
if it was just how the
blind
progression system worked, it would
it
be one
still
thing.
suck because of the game balance issues, but it wouldn't be literally pay to win.
Yeah.
Right, because even like, I think the first one to do this was Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Or Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, right?
Mhm.
But that was just like, the more you played, the more you unlocked guns.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
would just unlock more and more guns. But
Yeah.
it was also tied to your level, so
Some
you
guns would be
only
better.
played with people who had the same guns anyway.
Yeah.
And then like the more modern ones, I think Advanced Warfare or whatever,
Uh-huh.
they had crates and whatever, but you would also be able to buy with in-game credits specific things.
Right.
So like, and those at the time were not even monetized. That was just how their progression system worked.
Yeah.
So now
And that
like
progression system works well. Whether it's a good idea or not is I'm not even gonna go into, but it works well because it gets people to keep playing. People want to go
right, and that's
keep
ultimately
progressing
the
and say, like,
goal
I
of
gotta
those
get this
progression
done.
systems.
Yeah.
And that's why people would prestige, give it all up to have a number next to their name and then do it over again because they were in it for the treadmill. A lot of people
Yeah.
really like that treadmill. So, like, the problem is now, because I think this ultimately comes down to the mobile market, right?
Yeah.
They're getting away with pairing this progression system with money.
Yeah.
And like even in Overwatch, like I think Overwatch people aren't in it for the treadmill of getting another loot box the same way.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
People are into that game
People
because
play
it's
that
fun
game
to
because
fucking
it's fun
play.
to play.
Yeah.
right, and if they get bored of it, then they drop out. Like
Yeah, they
and
stop.
people will take breaks
then-
from it. Like I didn't play
Yeah.
it for a good 6 months or something,
Yeah,
but I picked it back
and
up.
then later on, there's like a new update. It adds a new character. That's
Or a
fun.
new skin, or updates
That's
an
what
old
I like
character.
about constantly updated games. They're like they bring new stuff to the table without you having to like progress through it.
And so
So
and like for me, part of the difference between Overwatch and something like Star Wars Battlefront 2 is that Overwatch comes out and that is a platform. So you're paying $40 for access to the platform that they will continually develop that platform, right?
right.
They're
Yeah.
going to keep adding new maps. They're going to keep adding new characters. They're going to keep adding new skins. And the reason why I don't mind buying loot boxes and stuff is because it supports that platform, which you assume will continue to exist. The problem with these same microtransactions in a game like Star Wars Battlefront 2 or NBA 2K17 is you pay $60 for a game you expect to be replaced in a year to 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So till NBA 2K18,
And even then, that's not so
and then
bad.
in
$60
Battlefront
for
3,
2 years of play.
what?
I don't know.
Even
But
then,
that's the
not
thing.
too bad. $60 for 2 years.
$60 for 2 years of play, but not the
Then-
microtransactions.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like if you were paying $60 for a game that you expected to have a life cycle, right? That included updates baked in, right? And Star Wars Battlefront 2, to its credit, does say that they will release free DLC in terms of maps and stuff. So they are planning on doing some of that.
After learning that everybody hated the paid DLC in the original one.
After after hearing that for like 20 trillion years and then
I feel
finally
like,
deciding.
No, I
that
think
they
that
could replace it
I
with
think that
microtransactions.
I don't think that they responded to criticism. I think
Yeah,
what they
exactly.
responded to in Star Wars Battlefront 1 and their jump from 2, I think what they actually responded to was their player base falling off. And because every time they released a new DLC, it split their player base into a smaller and smaller amount. So their issue was that they could not have a player base large enough to sustain itself.
Right.
And that was why they decided to do it this way, because they wanted to have that continued. They wanted to replace DLC with these microtransactions so that they could continue to make their profit over the $60 profit, so that they could have this game with a larger player base.
And still make it like have something that you still have to buy, but something that doesn't split the player base up. Something that unbalances the game, but they don't give a fuck about.
Right,
that.
and in their minds, they would rather
have like an unbalanced game that people.
Yeah, I don't know. So
I mean, like investors aren't looking at fucking tweets and like us assholes being like, "This game is fucking unbalanced. I don't like this bullshit that you're doing." They don't give a shit.
But they actually do care more about critical acclaim than one might think.
Right.
So.
But the problem is, like, the gaming journalism is such a fucking mess.
But even gaming journalism, even Polygon and
Yeah,
IGN
they
are
still
starting
do
to
all
react to
attack,
this
yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
getting
getting
it's
fucking
going too
bullshit.
far. It's starting to go
Yeah.
too far.
Yeah.
Even from the
have-
perspective of people who are basically bought and paid for.
Yeah.
I have, at one point in time, okay, I shouldn't say never, because at one point in time I was bitching about DLC just like everybody else. But in the end,
I still am.
I don't really
Just a
mind
note.
DLCs like
I
Like,
like
say-
DLC.
Gunrunner's Arsenal, right? I don't.
Well,
in New
Bethesda's
Vegas,
a hard
yeah,
choice because
I-
they've always been kind of iffy on their DLC. But actually, like, I think the first one to even do the season pass stuff was Borderlands.
Yeah.
Borderlands 1.
Yeah.
And with Borderlands, like, I think that they were kind of the first to do this, but they did a good model of DLC. They charged like $20 or something for a large chunk of game. It was
Yeah.
like an additional storyline that like took place after the game, and it like had this stuff going on. Like, so
Yeah, and none of it was like imperative to buy.
right, you could buy it if you wanted to, but it would
Even
if you didn't,
were-
you would miss out on the new content, but not
On
the
the
old
story.
content. So
But even if you didn't buy it, you'd miss out on the story of that new content, but you wouldn't miss out on, like, if you were really into the end game of Borderlands, you could
Well,
still
you
just
would.
play the base game.
well, I mean, it did split the player base for the multiplayer competitive Borderlands, which did exist.
Yeah.
But if you were into the end game,
Like-
competitive Borderlands, you probably just bought
Like-
all the DLC anyway.
Yeah.
But just because that was a kind of a big investment. But what I'm getting at is they kind of did Borderlands did it right in a way that,
Mhm.
like, I was very happy to pay $20 for the Island of Dr. Ned or Zed or whatever, which was the zombie update, because I played through that and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was worth $20. So
Mhm.
anytime we talk about DLC, I am always the one who kind of defends the idea of DLC because I think that I like the opportunity to have the option to buy more content for a game I enjoy.
Right.
It's one thing if the game feels stunted because of the lack of the DLC, or because of the DLC that's promised in the future. But you can tell, like, when that's happening. You can
Yeah.
tell when a
It's-
chunk of the
it's
game
like-
is missing.
If Street
Yeah.
Fighter 6 comes out and then all of the female characters are a DLC option, that's literally they're
You
just
can
taking
feel it.
away from the game.
Yeah.
But if Street Fighter 6 comes out and then you have the option to buy Raiden from Mortal Kombat, maybe they didn't plan to put that in the game, but then they did later.
I think that
that's a ridiculous.
I
that's a
think that
ridiculous criticism, and I can't-
characters in a fighter game is actually worse
yeah.
comparison because that fighting games
Well,
are a little
like,
bit different.
If you're playing like Mass Effect, right? And there's like an entire like side character or story that's very integral to the
Right.
plot that comes out the same day as the actual game comes out, that's fucking bullshit.
But if they come out with a side character who has a side plot with a very side stuff focused on that character,
That's not.
that
yeah,
doesn't
I mean,
connect to the main
they-
plot
but
other
that-
than
that
he
was
might be
like-
there too. Like
Yeah.
that's different. So like
Yeah.
I
What they
remember
used to call that was on disc DLC.
Yeah.
Now
well, and
they
even
got
then like
wise and started withholding it from the disc.
yeah, like that was the thing about on disc DLC. I feel like I don't know how much I even minded that, because ultimately if you didn't buy it, it didn't negatively affect the game.
But it depends on what it was. Like,
Well, that's
like
what I'm
that-
saying. Like, on
yeah.
disc DLC as a concept doesn't necessarily affect the game, other than they were developing this content in tandem with the game coming out. Like,
Right.
I think that, and then there's the idea of like putting it on the disc, but like that's
And like,
like
having it to pay
whatever.
for unlock.
Well, if
That's my biggest problem.
that's the thing. If it's on the disc, it's obviously ready for the release of the game. If you put out DLC at the day of the release of the
Well,
game,
not even then, not necessarily, because the kind of people. Well, yes, it's available on day one or whatever, but the kind of stuff that they could add a lot of times is like art asset stuff anyway. Like it's not content that is withholding the game from coming out, so it's not like the game is coming out later because of this content.
Right.
Like,
well, yeah, and that's the thing. If it's not, then why not just release it with the game itself?
Or
well, because I
even
understand that if they want to put in additional work for a character they didn't necessarily intend to be in the game, but as like an extended, like an extra thing, like that's different to me. Like
I feel that planned DLC is different. Like Nier Automata has this DLC pack, which in the game you can go to the place where the DLC pack is active on day one, like the day the game drops, and there's a robot there that says, no, you can't go here, sorry. But then they make it later. That's different. It's like that was not ready, and they kept
I don't know
developing
though,
it.
because to me it doesn't feel any different. Like they want to add new content that I don't know. Like I don't think that it's inherently wrong for a company to want to sell an additional piece of content onto their main piece of content. Like I don't think that's inherently wrong.
No.
So it doesn't bother me if they have content that is ready at the time of release, but you have to pay for it, as long as it doesn't stunt the game itself. Like, I think that the thing for me is all DLC needs to be optional. You know what I mean? It needs to feel like it's not taking away from the game to not have it. And even if it's on day one, or even if it's on the disc, to me, it's fine as long as it doesn't negatively impact the game that much to not have it. You know what I mean? Like, it should be an extra. All DLC to me should be extra. It shouldn't be part of something that feels like it was pulled out. Even if it's ready on day one, as long as it doesn't feel like it's something they took away from the game, that's different to me. Like,
my biggest problem with DLC is that, bitch, I paid $60 for your goddamn game. I want all of the fucking thing.
Right, but if they create more of the game after the fact, then that doesn't.
To make a new goddamn game.
Why? Why would you make a whole new game for like Fallout Nuka World? There's like 3 more hours of content, and you pay like $15 for it. Like that's okay.
And people had expansion packs before.
Well, no, and I'm fine with an expansion pack. Like a year later, to drum up new, hype for the game, release a $20 expansion pack with all the DLCs that you've developed in it.
That was something I was going to bring up. Imagine if StarCraft and Brood War were bundled in the same game, released at the same time. But the first half of the story, the first half, StarCraft base, you had to pay for. And then StarCraft Brood War, you had to pay for again. But it came out at the same time. That would feel really shitty.
Yeah.
But
that's because
it came out at
a different time. But that has to do with that. That's because StarCraft Brood War is like it's. I think that's different because it's not like if you played StarCraft versus Brood War, it would feel like you were withholding something from StarCraft if you release StarCraft 2 at the same time. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not as like Brood War was such a big upgrade in various different things that had new units and new maps and new story. That was like there is enough there that it felt like it would be taking away if it was done at the same time. Whereas I think a lot of the stuff that is day one DLC is like a character or like I don't know, like a side thing. It's never like a chunk of the story. It's not like Resident Evil 7 or whatever came out and then they had day one DLC that was like the last chapter, the chapter after the chapter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's different. I think I guess for me
it's like a content and timing thing.
Yeah,
If
I
they
think
develop
so.
more after the fact, and it's a lot of content, that's fine. If they section off things that are basically not important at all, then it's still fine. But if it's a
But
big
if it's
chunk of
both-
content that's important and on day one, then it's bullshit.
Right.
I
And
think
even
I
then,
can agree to that.
even then, I still think that like like it can't be like the resolution to the game is a DLC, right? It has to be like the game itself, the vanilla version of the game without any of the DLC has to feel like a complete product.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to have all of the features or whatever, but it has to feel complete. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
And then with map packs, it's like map packs suck because they split the player base. But even then, it's like if the game comes out with 16 maps and then it has a map pack that has 4 more maps, that's fine as long as the game before that didn't have 20 maps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if game 1 has
if-
20 maps and game 2 has 16 maps and a 4 map DLC, that's shitty, right?
Or even I feel like if game 1 has 16 maps and then it releases with a 4 map DLC, that's also withholding content for the purpose of selling it.
Only if it comes out on day 1, right?
Yeah, on day 1.
Right.
If it comes out
So yeah, I think that
A
it's
month
true that it
later?
is a content and a timing thing. Well, even a month.
Yeah.
Like a month is a little too soon, but I think it is a
Yeah,
timing.
It's a little too soon, but it's like one of those things where, okay, if it came out a month later, it maybe wasn't ready for the game, maybe they withheld it, but you just don't know. It's not as egregious as like literally splitting the game in half at day 1.
Right. So I don't know. Like I think it's DLC is kind of a weird topic, and I don't inherently dislike DLC because a lot of games I enjoy the DLC and the additional
Yeah.
content, and I
I
don't
don't-
mind paying for it.
I like
But-
additional content in video games. I like it when somebody goes back and adds more to a game. That's why I like games that patch for free. Like that's
Yeah,
what kept
same.
me playing League of Legends. That would make me go back to League of Legends every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
There's more
And
characters. They're
and-
adding more to the game. And like League of Legends maybe is, I know that you guys don't like it, but
Well,
League of
no, I think
Legends-
that the difference for League of Legends is because they're adding characters, but like that is so. I guess a lot of it comes down to games as a service and games as a platform, right? With
Yeah.
League of Legends, the base game is there.
Yeah.
It will always kind of exist.
Mhm.
I think something like, I think what you probably mean more is something more like Terraria, right? Where
right.
where
Okay.
they kind of added huge chunks of game after the game. But
Yeah.
I bought the game when it first came out. Actually, I think I might have bought it in beta, like before it
Yeah.
was actually out. But
Yeah.
that game felt like a complete game when it came out.
Yeah,
um,
and then they added
And then they
Well,
added
even-
free DLC or
they
free
added a second
additional
story.
patches or whatever. And
They
yeah,
added a
I
third
always
story.
appreciate. I do always appreciate when they give the new free content. But
Mhm.
even in Terraria's case, I wouldn't have mind paying for it either. So
Yeah.
I do like that, and it goes to, it's like, in a way, it's almost like goodwill from the devs are buying goodwill, right? Or something like Hollow Knight, right? Like Hollow Knight has a number of free.
It has one
expansions.
free DLC, and on Halloween they're coming out with another one.
Yeah.
Are they doing
Oh,
paid
and,
DLC? Do they have any
no,
paid
no,
DLCs?
no.
No, it
Are
is
they
free.
planning
they
any?
are completely
It
against paid
is-
DLC.
Okay. Well,
Even if they weren't against paid DLC, from what I hear of Hollow Knight's DLC, it is worth money. Like
Well-
it is something that would be reasonable to pay for.
so think
It's
about
entire new content.
So okay,
12
just pretend for a second that Hollow Knight has its free DLC, but it also had paid DLC, right?
Okay.
That would also feel better because like if they were giving free content, it would buy goodwill that you would feel better about buying paid content if you
Yeah.
wanted that.
Like
So,
they,
like,
they came out with that free Halloween update, and then the other update that they came out with, they
Right.
asked for some money. Yeah.
So I think that some games can justify adding free content, like justify from their end, right? They can
Mhm.
justify adding free content if as a way to keep interest in their game while they're working on paid content. So I
Yeah.
think that, I don't know.
Awesome Knots did that.
Yeah.
They added like
Yeah, but they
6
did
or
it-
7 new
They did it in a
characters.
shitty way. Like
Yeah.
I don't like
what
that
wound up happening-
Awesomenauts added
Path of
paid
Exile
characters.
was
and-
probably the best example of this.
Well, Path
Because-
of Exile has and will always be free,
Yeah, exactly.
and every update is free. That's not
Yeah.
what we're talking.
No,
about. We're talking about-
but Path of Exile has microtransactions in it. They're not
Yeah,
in your
it
face
does.
about it,
And
but
that's
the
exactly
way they
like,
fund their game is through
it's
through that.
microtransactions.
So
yeah.
like that is Path of Exile is more equivalent to something like League of Legends, even though one is a linear game and one is like a multiplayer game.
Path of Exile's like, I don't think that League of Legends microtransactions are bad in any way. I think that they have like the perfect
I
middle
don't think so
ground.
either.
Like you can buy it with
And all of the stuff you buy is cosmetic. Like none of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
None of it is
Well,
like runes and stuff
not
you can't
necessarily.
actually buy with.
you
Right,
can
points.
you can buy champions. Like, but I
Yeah,
don't
but
think
that's
that's
not-
so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Whereas in Path of Exile, everything you buy is either convenience or
Or
Or cosmetic.
yeah. Like you can buy extra stash tabs, or you can buy access to a guild bank that you can basically trade with your guildmates with. And,
Yeah.
and, like, that's about it.
Maple Story, I think, might have had character classes you had to buy,
hmm
but it had like 6 free classes and like 1 or 2 paid classes, and that even that didn't feel that bad. But that game was, I mean, that didn't have PvP in it, so,
Yeah,
or I don't know, it might have, but
it probably did.
oh,
but
you know what it
might-
did, but it
that's
was
so-
but they weren't, they were like mini games. So.
Yeah.
Right.
It's sort of like how Path of Exile has PvP, but no one fucking
Yeah,
does
why
that
would you
because
do that?
Yeah.
Well, I remember doing a bunch of PvP in Maple Story actually because it was a really easy way to get money, but I don't know. And Guild Wars too, right?
Yeah. That's
Guild
how
Wars-
I got all of my
Yeah.
cosmetic things.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in PvP in Guild Wars too, but like all of the stuff you buy is either convenience or cosmetic. Like it's not
Every single bit.
it's not-
There's nothing
power.
in Guild Wars that is powerful. Like
other than expansions, but that adds story content character
that adds-
classes
and-
and,
that
stuff.
like-
adds
like-
side grade classes. Like
and I still like
some of them are
expansions better than
really
DLC
good.
because like they add basically just an entire another game every couple of years to keep the game alive. And the way that Guild Wars does it, I really like because like all of the stuff became free right after.
Well, Heart of the Thorns is still
Heart of Thorns
paid.
still isn't?
Heart of
Thorns.
Heart of Thorns is still, you still have to buy Heart of Thorns
Okay.
separately from Path of Fire. So
But
yeah, you
Guild
can buy
Wars-
them together as a bundle, but Guild Wars
Guild
the base
Wars
game is
2
free.
Is free.
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah, Guild Wars
Is
2 the
it-
base game is free.
Is it totally free, or do they lock you out of some stuff?
They lock
Like,
you
I
out of
think-
stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have. I think you don't have as much stash. Like you don't have. What is it? It's like
You have a
you have
smaller
less
bag.
character slots. You
I
have
think
less.
you have significantly less character slots. Like you would have started the game with 6 if you bought it. I think you get like 2.
No, I think it's more than that, but I think you do get less.
Yeah.
You aren't allowed to list things on the trading post, I believe.
Mm.
That makes sense though. That's
yeah.
not
Yeah.
that's not like locking out players from doing it. That's like stopping Chinese gold farmers.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of the basically all of the stuff is to prevent like
Gold farmers.
Yeah.
gold farmers and spammers and that sort of thing. I think you're not allowed to map chat.
Until you're level like 60 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what
and,
it
and
is?
You're not allowed to go to Lion's Arch until like you're a certain level too.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Oh, maybe, I don't know. So
Yeah, there's
so there
certain
are
places
there
you
are
can't
things
go,
that makes
certain
it,
things you can't do.
but the game is perfectly playable as long as you stay
Oh,
in your
yeah.
like the zone your starter zone, right? So
Yeah.
Right.
it means you can't go to other races starter zones, but that's
Well,
whatever.
at level 10 is when you get to go to Lion's Arch. So
Yeah.
Eh.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I don't even know how you get to. Well, I guess you could go through to your hometown, but yeah. So
Oh.
I mean, and I think Guild Wars it buys a lot of goodwill in the same way that they release Living World expansion stuff for free,
Yeah.
assuming you're active at
Yeah.
the time.
and then the living world leads into the story. Like all of the living world. You know, we haven't talked about Guild Wars here at all. Maybe we should once we get a little further in the Path of Fire. But
Yeah.
the living world
Yeah.
basically like
We talked about it a little bit when we were
So sorry.
we were saying that we bought Path of Fire, but we actually haven't gotten very far in Path of Fire yet because we've been distracted by other stuff.
I feel like it's not very spoilery to say this particularly. The expansion is called Path of Fire, and if you know anything about Guild Wars, you're probably going to assume it has something to do with Balthazar. And if you know anything about,
I don't necessarily think you would believe that at all. I think if you had played Heart of Thorns and didn't play any of the Living World, you would probably assume it was about Primordus.
That's true. But
like an entirely different dragon that they made up.
But also the advertising is kind of all about Balthazar too. Like it's hard to not know that Path of Fire is about Balthazar.
I mean, you know, but that's not.
So it's not particularly a spoiler. All of the Living World, well, the last 2 or 3 chapters of the Living World in Heart of Thorns had to do with Balthazar. And that built up and built up and built up more story, and then they released Path of Fire, which is...
Well, the whole thing was actually about Balthazar. You just didn't know it until the end.
Yeah.
Because, I want to say the first or second chapter, you meet that... Like, actually, no, the first chapter, you meet, the Mersat guy. The Mersat guy kills...
actually Balthazar. Spoilers. Sorry, it came out 6 months ago.
Yeah. So the Mersat guy shows up, and you think it's the Mersat guy, but he actually turned out to be Balthazar. But he is right there, like, right at the beginning of the first chapter of the Living World. So the whole thing, the whole Living World was about Balthazar, actually.
Yeah.
You just didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, and it like, really built up to Path of Fire, and all of that was free, and then Path of Fire is an expansion you pay for, but...
Well, it was free if you were active.
Yeah, if you were active.
If you were not active, then you might have to buy it with gems, but...
Even then, you can buy gems with gold. So, if you weren't active, but you were a high-level player, or like a player that did a lot of content like that, you could go back and do that content, earn gold relatively quickly, and get that content if you wanted it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like, because I do have to pay, like, fucking, like...
You cannot buy Path of Fire with gems. Like, that's
yeah.
You can't,
and that's the thing, I do have to pay, like, for the fucking game and the fucking expansions. And the expansions I don't think are like $60. I think they're like $40 each.
Yeah.
I do have to pay for those.
I think Heart of Thorns was $60.
Or you have to...
But Path of Fire was only
wait for me to pay for it for you.
Well, I get you did buy Path of Fire for me, because I had, like, no intention of buying it. Myself, because I had already bought the other one when we had dropped off Guild Wars, like,
neither of you had any intention of buying it, so I just bought it for you without telling you.
I would have bought it. I would have bought it. I was interested enough, but I would have, but I didn't have money, so I wouldn't have been able to.
Right.
Well, the thing is, like, you have to pay this some chunk of money for the game, and then there's all of this, you know, cosmetic and Living World stuff that you have to sort of pay for, but then you can also just make the money in the game to be able to pay for it.
One problem, or one thing that they did, like, I think they may have noticed that people were just paying for a lot of the cosmetic stuff with gold in the cash shop. And so one thing that they did was they made a lot of the cash shop cosmetics time limited, and they bring them back on a cycle, but
time limited in the sense that you can only buy them in a period of time, not time limited in the sense that they wear off.
Right. Not like Maple Story style, like you can buy them for 7 days.
Yeah, it's not renting cosmetics, it is buying it, but you can
time
only
limited
buy
is
it.
in, like, for 2 weeks you can get these cool ass eagle wings.
And then they're gone.
If you so it's like you have either 2 weeks to make the gold for it, you already have the gold for it, or on the last day, you don't have the gold for it, so you better buy it because you don't know when it's coming back.
Yeah, and
which I think is a decent system. You're still able to earn those rewards.
I don't necessarily know that was intended to deal with people buying stuff with in-game gold. I think that might have just been... I think the kind of the ethos of cosmetics in that game in general is that, like, you want to be able to have unique things. So if you can buy something that's unique and only a limited time available, then only so many people can have that time limited thing.
Yeah, so, that's true. Like, early on, I remember I grinded the ever-living shit out of the Dredge dungeon. just so that I could get a helmet that made me look like a space marine. But now people run that dredge dungeon in like 15 minutes. If you wanted that helmet nowadays,
What are you talking about? When we were running that, we were running it in 15 minutes.
Yeah, but that was because we, in particular, got so good at it that I think it was Yumi and Sanguinius at the time.
No, it was just you and me.
Just you and me? Yeah. You and me could guide the 3 pubs so easily that, like,
but that was the
knew
thing.
Exactly
that was the thing. That's why people run it so fast now. It's because everyone is to the point that we were at when we were doing it, so.
Everybody, exactly.
It's because it's been there since the game
But at
came
the
out.
time, like in the beginning when we were first trying out the paths, it was like, oh, this is gonna take forever to get my helmet. All I want is to look like I'm a space marine. And then eventually we started running it really fast, and that made it better. But
What are we talking about this for?
it was
yeah, because
what I was trying to say
gear.
was the dungeon gear when the game came out was really exclusive. But now if you want dungeon gear, you can just find a pickup group and run the dungeon in 15 minutes.
Actually, it's even easier than that now. You don't even have to run a dungeon. You can play PvP for it.
Yeah, exactly. You can just also play
Actually,
PvP.
I'm a little sad. I wish that Path of Fire would have added some more dungeons, but
Yeah. And
they've not
I
added
guess-
any dungeons because I guess that
well,
content is like annoying for them to make.
and one,
Other than
here's the
fractals.
thing. Yeah, I was gonna say they haven't added any dungeons, but they've been very good on adding fractals.
Yeah, but that's not the same
That's what
thing.
they want to focus on.
yeah,
That's
that-
not the
well,
same
that's-
thing. They should add an actual dungeon. That's
Yeah.
how I feel.
Well, here's the thing. I think one of the reasons they don't want to add a bunch of dungeons is just because of everyone
The player
bullshitted
base.
them.
Yeah.
The player base.
All the-
Player base of Guild Wars is a bunch of assholes.
It's really
and I hate-
annoying for them to develop, and
Yeah.
I think that they
To
would rather
develop a
develop
dungeon
world
and
content than
Yeah.
dungeon
players
content.
just go and break them. Yeah, they did. That it's not necessarily true that they haven't added any dungeons if you count raids, because raids
That's
are
true. That's
pretty
like
similar to dungeons.
that's like
They've
10-person
added
dungeons or something.
3 raids since the game came out.
We
or
should play
since
some of
Hard
those
Force
raids. I
came
would
out.
have.
Yeah, I still really want to do that. Yeah.
I also really want to do that. We need to find a pickup group though, and we need to find more importantly, we need to find a pickup group that's forgiving to new players, and that's the hardest part.
I mean, I'm
And I
in the
don't think that's
Kaminami Vanguard. Still, could
if
add you
they're
to that one.
forgiving to new players, yeah.
They
we
are. I
could
mean, that's
just-
for sure. That's what they say in there. Thing.
okay.
You might
But-
do that.
That's a discussion for later.
They're also
and,
a big guild too. They're like a big newbie guild.
Oh,
Okay. Cool.
And one of the like on the topic we sort of passed this a little bit on the topic of like timed cosmetics that are like on a timer and you buy them for only so
That
long.
stuff sucks too.
Yeah, that's the best way to get me to never ever buy a cosmetic in your game because
Buy anything in their game.
yeah at all.
Oh, you mean timed cosmetics? Like you buy it and then you have it for a certain amount of
Yeah,
time?
renting cosmetics.
Not like Guild Wars times cosmetics because I do like that because
I
It's
thought you were
one
talking-
thing. It's one
thought you
thing
were
if you rent it with in-game currency, and that's annoying. But if you have to rent it with paid currency, I will not buy it.
yeah,
no,
agreed.
So
that is bullshit.
But yeah,
Maple
no,
Story is like the only game that I can think of that's done that. Even
oh,
other
Blackwatch
Nexon-
Retribution, dude. That free-to-play gun shooter.
Oh yeah, a lot of Nexon games rent out guns, but I'm talking purely cosmetics. Like even other Nexon RPGs I've played, Mabinogi. Mabinogi did not have anything like that. Once you bought a cosmetic, it was there
Vindictus had
forever.
stuff like that. Yeah, straight up.
In Maple
Oh,
Story,
yeah.
you could pay twice the price to get it forever.
Right.
And even then, I think it was like you would have to pay twice the price in the first 2 weeks that the item came out.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't buy older items forever for permanent.
That
I don't know.
sucks. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I
Anyway,
have something to point out.
we're not going to talk about news
Yeah, it's
because
been
we've
2
been going
hours.
for over 2 hours, and
There's not a whole lot.
that's the games we've been playing this week. I didn't even get to
Yeah,
talk
oh
about
my
Blade Runner.
Is there anything
Damn.
important? Are there any really important news that we want to go over real quick?
Nothing that we can't go over next week. I feel like all of this stuff isn't.
I mean, a
super
lot of it's
important.
tied into what we've been saying. I'll just quickly touch on a couple things. So the original Battlefront 2 multiplayer is on Steam and GOG, and they have cross-play multiplayer now.
Oh,
It
yeah.
doesn't really work. a lot
It is
of the
very
time.
buggy, and has issues though. Like Thel and I were able to get in a couple games, but
Not,
the
like,
big
well-connected
servers
ones,
are really difficult to load into. And then Open Critic is putting a review flag for loot boxes on their game reviews now.
Here's something that I wanted to mention. Elite Dangerous.
Mhm.
I hated Elite Dangerous. I thought it was like probably one of the worst space sims I've ever played. Ever. I hated it. In the end. While I was playing it, I was like, okay, this is decently fun. But the more and more I played it, the more I just hated it. They're finally adding a multiplayer mode, which include not multiplayer mode, it's always been multiplayer, but like multiplayer squads and missions that you can do specifically with your friends.
Yeah, and that
one
was
of the
like
things
probably your biggest problem.
That was my biggest problem. That was why I hated it so much, because I went into it with the intention of playing with you guys.
Yeah.
And the other thing they're adding is carrier class ships, which are
you have to buy the
ships.
DLC for it though.
Okay, well, never mind. But anyway, it's still a neat concept. They're adding carrier class ships, which your friends will be able to dock in. You can drive, and then your friends can fly out of it. It's cool. I hate that.
I don't know. I think you're a little hard on that game, but
in the end, I feel like I should just wait for Star Citizen.
I feel, well, here's the thing. I'm like I have like a ton of hours. I have like over 100 hours in Elite Dangerous. There's fuck all to do in that game. Maybe with this stuff, like I do feel like they do constantly add stuff on, and there are a little bit more things to do. But like even like the last time I played, I was like, it's still not that much to do, and I don't want to download the DLC because there's like even less to do for like the price that it is.
Right. That game is mostly just like Euro Truck Simulator, but in space. That's all that game really is.
Basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
And there's like a little bit of combat, but like I never even I love space combat, but I never even like did any of the space combat because I didn't want my chip to blow up because I didn't want to lose my money.
I also want
to fuck slaves.
I also want to talk about Blade Runner because I watched that this weekend and it was really good.
Okay,
was
good.
it?
It was really good. I thought that Ryan Gosling was really good in it because he's very good at playing characters with no emotions.
Yeah.
He was very it was very reminiscent of Drive.
Oh, good.
In a very like funny way because it was it was basically Drive in space in a lot of ways.
I have to know
future Earth, but
yeah.
I don't have to know whether it's a spoiler or not.
Oh, yeah.
Or no, I have to know whether it's a spoiler or not. I don't have to know whether it's true or not. He said the director of the original, I don't even remember who it is. Ridley Scott said, "Yeah, Harrison Ford's character might be a replicant. You'll know for sure in the new movie." Do you know for sure in the new movie? Don't say yes or no. Don't say yes or no he is or isn't. But do you know? Does it reveal that? Is that an important
That's the thing. I think that they don't directly reveal it, right?
Okay.
So it feels like it could still be ambiguous. But
well, here's the thing. It was never actually meant to be ambiguous.
Yeah, it was supposed to be he's not a replicant. That was intentional.
That was the point of the story, yeah.
But
Ridley... Okay, let me explain. Philip K. Dick explained that no, Deckard is not a replicant. The writers for the movie explained no, Deckard is not a replicant. One day, during making the director's cut, Ridley Scott took a scene that was cut from Legend and spliced it into Blade Runner.
The weird thing about Blade Runner was there were 3 endings. There were 3 different endings.
There were 2 endings.
No, there were 3.
No. The director's cut ending and the final cut ending are the same.
No, there were 3. There were 3 different endings.
What was the third one? So there was the original director's cut.
There was one where it was ambiguous, one where it was one way, and one way that was the other way.
I don't...
What?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never even seen Blade Runner in the first
Wait, which one was which?
What do you mean? Well, I don't remember which one was which.
Okay,
I just remember that there were
the
3.
theatrical cut, what happened was I think you're thinking of a completely like different question. The ending that was like ambiguous wasn't necessarily whether or not Deckard was a replicant. What it was when they were leaving in the theatrical cut, they went on a drive and went down like a street and were like, all right, we did it, we escaped fucking Los Angeles and are safe forever. In the director's cut, what happened is the movie ended as the elevator door closed, and they had already seen the thing from Gaff because Gaff had been.
It'd been a long time since I've even seen Blade Runner, so I don't even know which one I've seen.
Okay,
but
you probably saw the final cut.
Okay,
and it ended there.
I'll
and
say
it was
this:
ambiguous whether or not Gaff was coming to get them or was going to stop them and kill them. That was the ambiguous part as far as the ending was concerned.
Either way, they do not say whether or not he is a replicant.
Which is really funny because before the movie came out, Ridley Scott said, "Trust me, you'll know for sure when the new movie comes out."
Well, no. He didn't say like you'll know for sure. He's like, well, I guess it's going to be decided in the new movie. I have no say in it, so. And basically everyone else was saying, no, he's not a fucking replicant. Ridley Scott's a goddamn madman.
Okay. Just like Yokotaro.
I would just watch it yourself because honestly,
oh yeah, absolutely.
There's no way. I feel like they imply heavily one way, but they don't actually say it.
Okay.
So he could or could not be. I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I would have to rewatch the first one and see how I felt about what happened in the first one before I would even be able to decide what he was in this one, I guess.
Well, in the book, he's not ever intended to even be hinted at being a replicant.
Yeah. Well, and the truth is, the book is like, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep is way different.
And either way,
was Blade Runner based on Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
And then but the girlfriend was a replicant, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and that was the
plot.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, yeah. Blade Runner is good. It had a lot of like drive feels. It was really fucking long though. And that's my one like hang up about recommending this to anyone is some people will probably feel like it moves really slow because it is very intentional. And there are scenes that feel like you could argue that they were in there for no reason. Like there is a point where the character played by Ryan Gosling is looking at bees.
Yeah.
And he's like sticking his hand in a beehive, and it's like that doesn't really like. I mean, he didn't have to spend that much time looking at the bees. He could have just been like, "Oh, there's bees there," but no, it's just like he sits there and like is looking at bees for a while.
Yeah.
For no reason. But like, I think that the point of that. And all of the scenes in that movie like that is it was kind of meant to have this slow pace, this slow methodical pace, this idea of him like putting things together, clues together, figuring stuff out.
So is Ryan Gosling's character a replicant, or is
yes?
Okay.
Yes.
He is a replicant, and that is 100% like.
That's like something that's like not like a.
That is not meant. Yeah, that is not even a spoiler.
That's
that's just his character.
That is the premise of the movie: is a replicant is a Blade Runner who is a guy who kills other replicants, and this is his story of him dealing with killing a bunch of replicants, basically.
Okay.
And it kind of tangents off like really early on in the movie, but the point is he is a replicant who kills replicant.
Okay.
And then he's running around. And then the kind of the point of the story changes as the story goes on. And that was another thing, like, it felt kind of... Something I really loved about the movie was it felt pretty morally ambiguous about who you were even supposed to be kind of rooting for, what was even kind of happening for most of the movie. It was about halfway through that you kind of got a solid grasp of, okay, I know who the good guy is, and I know who the bad guy is now.
Yeah. And that was one of the big... Oh, excuse me. That was one of the big things about the original Blade Runner is that like who you were rooting for was very ambiguous because like the villains had more reason to do what they were doing and were more sympathetic than like the hero was, because like the hero was only doing his job and he didn't even fucking want to be doing his job. Harrison Ford was just there because Captain Bryant was like, fucking do the shit that I tell you to. He's like, oh, all right. But then Roy Batty was actively trying to get more life, and like he's terrified of death. And
right, and in a
doesn't
lot
want
of
to
ways,
die.
this was very similar. It kind of paralleled it in an interesting way because
It's just like the video game by Yokotaro called Nier.
Shut up.
Replicants.
Shut up.
Yeah.
But Ryan Gosling's character, his name was
K.
a serial number. It was K. It was like KD and then numbers. And then later on he gets a name, but that's kind of like a plot point, not a big one. So K is like, God, I lost my train of thought. You had to go into the fucking Nier thing. I totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I don't know, like it in the same way it paralleled it, that he was kind of, he didn't like his job. He didn't like killing other replicants, but he kind of had to because he was a new version of replicants that basically couldn't say no.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a little bit of stuff about like I haven't seen the movie, but I have seen like the little the shorts that like sort of are supposed to precede the movie. I saw both of those, and that sort of does set that up a little bit.
and then something that might be a little bit controversial about Blade Runner 2, I'm just gonna call it Blade Runner 2, is
fair enough. 2049.
Yeah, 2049. It puts a lot of it leaves a lot of threads open for like stuff like sequels. There are a lot of places that could there's a lot of jumping off points from this movie. But if it were to have a sequel, it'd probably have a sequel or a prequel in a similar way to Blade Runner, original Blade Runner's jump to this one, because different character. Well, I mean, Harrison Ford is in it again, but he's not the main character. Different lead character, different kind of story, different kind of point in a little bit.
Yeah.
But still has like. Here's the thing about Blade Runner 2 is Blade Runner and the new Ghost in the Shell kind of parallel in a weird way in that Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner and the original Ghost in the Shell were kind of in the same space, right?
They're both about transhumanism.
Right, they were kind of about the same thing. It was kind of about like a human that is basically more machine than human, and a machine that is more human than machine, almost, right?
Yeah.
So they're kind of existed in the same space. But both had a little bit of action, right? This new one, the new versions of the new Ghost in the Shell and the new Blade Runner, it's like they kind of went in opposite directions. Blade Runner doubled down on kind of the philosophy, and Ghost in the Shell doubled down on the action. So it's kind of like really interesting to see how these two went, and how like one was trashed by critics and one is like lauded
by critics. Yeah.
Yeah, and the philosophical one was the lauded one.
Well, obvious. Yeah. I mean, critics would obviously do that.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It kind of didn't pair. Unfortunately, neither of these did that well in the box office.
No, unfortunately, Blade Runner isn't doing super good.
Yeah, Blade Runner is, I think it's made like 50,000 out of 150,000 budget, or million. Both of those were in millions, not in thousands, but
And the original
I was
Blade
gonna
Runner
say,
didn't
wait,
do very-
50,000 out
Yeah,
of 150
50 million.
million?
50 million.
Holy shit! We're never gonna.
Or maybe
see
it made
the
like
Blade Runner
40,
content.
like 35 or 40 million, and they were expecting 50 million. It was something like that.
Yeah.
But it is not. What?
The original Blade Runner didn't do very good either, but that was mostly just because of the studio changes that were
But
like the reason of the theatrical edition.
That one was also not. It didn't have the same like cult hit behind it, like because this
true.
one is a sequel to what is a cult classic and a cult hit, and kind of a genre creator. Because cyberpunk as a genre came out of Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell. Those were the two principal places. modern
Which-
cyberpunk, because there's still
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
some
yeah.
pseudo cyberpunk that existed kind of before.
One
and
of which
after,
I
but-
need to finish, the other of which I need to see in the first place. Like, and cyberpunk is one of my favorite genres.
Ghost in the Shell?
I need to finish Ghost in the Shell, and
No,
I need to
'cause-
even see Blade Runner.
No, because you're talking about standalone complex, which is not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about the original
movie
Ghost in the
Ghost.
Shell movies,
Yeah.
Really?
of which there were 3.
I
Yeah,
didn't
that-
know those came before Ghost.
Oh,
No, they
yeah,
came
that
long
was
before. They
80s.
came 20 years before.
Yeah.
they
so-
they were okay. So both of which I need to see, I guess.
Yeah.
I
Um,
thought the movies were as most anime is addition to
No.
No, yeah.
the anime.
And that's why
Well,
I've
they're
only seen the
actually like
movies.
they're not even
Yeah, they're not even like the same thing.
they're not even the
very
same
different.
universe
Yeah.
because
It's
because it is a
completely
different version of Major that is
Yeah,
the lead
because,
character
like,
involved.
in the movie, Major, in the first movie, Major basically goes away forever and doesn't show up in the second movie. Like, the second movie is entirely about Bato. She doesn't even fucking show up.
That's
until the
great. I
very
love
end.
Bato.
But yeah, the Major doesn't even show up until the very end. But yeah, the first movie is very much about the Major. And yeah, I've only seen the movies. I have never seen standalone complex.
So the
You should see
new-
standalone complexes.
the
actually.
new
But
movie
yeah,
is based.
I really
the new
do
movie
like
is
it.
based on the movies and not standalone complex, right?
Yes and no. It
yes
is
and no.
based off of the original movie to an extent, but it has the characters from Standalone Complex in it for
Yeah.
no reason.
It's basically just a mash of all of the things that are Ghost in the
Yeah,
Shell
because
combined.
yeah,
And
but it is
also-
if it is the most like the original movie though.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's fun, but it's not very philosophical. It's not very much about the concept of transhumanism the same
Which
way as
is, isn't that kind of like the entire point of Ghost in the Shell?
kind of, but
Yeah.
at
Like,
the same
it's
time,
kind-
it was always also a vehicle for cool action. So
I mean,
Well,
yes,
well,
a
here's the thing.
vehicle
The
for
movie,
cool action doesn't have to not be philosophical. I don't know.
the
Sure.
movie itself was like almost exclusively transhumanism and like a vehicle for the animation.
oh, it was
Like, there was a
also
lot of
based
really
on a
cool-
manga though that was.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
and the manga was both.
Yeah.
So the whole time, like I don't know, and it's not like the original Ghost in the Shell didn't have action in it because it did.
Yeah,
But-
it definitely did.
But the point, I mean, the core of the movie, of all of these movies, are the transhumanism thing.
Mhm.
But there was action in it, and so the new Ghost in the Shell pulled a lot of the philosophical stuff back, and was kind of a vehicle for action. But at the same time,
It
like
has
we've been
its
having
philosophical-
these thoughts about transhumanism the whole time. So they would either need to attack a different idea or kind of drop it, which is what they did. So I don't know.
Right.
Well, and this was like a big Hollywood studio movie, and when I say that, I don't mean like they funded a director. The studio made this movie.
Right. Yeah.
And the new Blade Runner was Warner Brothers and Sony.
Yeah,
Actually
and
made it
it
in
was
tandem.
it was both giving Denis Villeneuve all of the resources that he needed to make what he wanted to make.
Right.
It's
I just hope-
it's-
I just hope they don't get burned in this deal. I hope that Blade Runner
Yeah.
actually does, through word of mouth, pick up. But
yeah.
I
And,
don't know.
and I don't know, and it's weird to see Denny going like really slow because all of his like previous like sort of studio-ish movies like from Prisoners onward have all been like really tight gripping fast-paced movies where a bunch of really intense shit happens all the time.
right.
So I actually kind of want to see him go slow, and it's weird because a similar thing happened this year with Christopher Nolan. Apparently, Dunkirk was really slow and methodical, and that's not what Christopher Nolan does at all.
hmm
So I'm really excited to see both of those movies.
I would really recommend you see Blade Runner if you can tolerate it having a slower pace, because it is a very slow paced movie compared to most movies, and it is 2.5 hours long. So you have to be
2.5
ready.
hours isn't terrible.
It's
Like,
pretty
that's-
fucking long for a movie that doesn't
Well,
have
if
that much
if
action in
it's-
it.
If it's a very slow-paced movie, yeah, because I mean, like there are super, like almost, like Guardians of the Galaxy is 2.5 hours long. Is 2.5 hours long.
But here's the thing.
those are
Blade
big
Runner
super
has
action
3 fight scenes in it
Yeah.
in the whole movie. So,
Yeah.
Right.
And there are a lot of scenes where it is Ryan Gosling brooding. So, like, if you like to drive, go ahead and see Blade Runner, because it parallels to the extent that it's like, I don't know. Oh, I actually don't. I don't want to talk about why. I don't want to talk about why, because it would be a little bit spoilery for both.
Right,
but after you guys in particular, after you see it, we have to kind of talk about how similar it is to Drive, because it's hilarious. Anyway.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling has proved to be a real human being and a real hero.
Don't say 2B. I can't handle it anyway.
Really good at not being emotional.
Yeah.
So
really quick,
anything else we want to touch on real quick?
No, because I think we're pretty much done.
We've gone way through all of the thing. Yeah.
Well, we're at 2.5 hours, which is about where we usually end up landing.
Usually stop. Yeah.
What kind of
and we didn't take a break.
I will start so that you guys can think. My next probably few streams, unless I get really burnt out on Cuphead, is going to be Cuphead. I just bought it. I've installed it. I might even start streaming it on Wednesday, which is off my schedule, but I do not work on Wednesday, so I might just fucking marathon.
I've been wanting to play more PUBG, because after we had those great rounds last week, I have been really into the idea of playing more of that. We can definitely
do that on Thursday. If you want, we could even do it tonight, but that'll be something I'll announce on Twitter, which is...
I don't know about tonight. I need to figure out, maybe in a bit later, but at least I have to go eat and stuff, so I probably won't be home until like 8 or 9.
Okay.
Well, either way, on Thursday we should on Thursday we might be playing Overwatch. The update does come out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Did we put out the new spooky game yet?
Yes.
The Hatman the Shadow Ward is out. It is a 40-minute long.
No, not Hatman.
What?
Postmortem?
No. It was Huntsman.
Huntsman.
Yeah.
Huntsman.
And yes, we did put it out. It's
it is
okay. I have to watch that.
But it is hilarious. Like, I was laughing at my own jokes halfway through the thing, because we did it so long ago that
we need sometime this week. We need to play the new
Sonic EXE. Yeah.
No, don't. Oh, I don't spoil it. You suck. Okay.
Hey, whoa! No!
I'm gonna edit that. I'm gonna bleep it out.
Here's the thing. They are going to look that up, right? And what they're going to find is not what we are going to play. We're going to play something completely different.
Anyway. So, thank you for joining us. That was our show. We will see you next week.
Yeah.
And keep an eye out for more videos from us.
And don't remember to stay beautiful.
Did you say don't remember?
Yeah, don't remember what?
Don't remember to stay... Don't forget... One sec.
Actually remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah. Do that, but also do remember to stay beautiful.
You did it.
We'll see you next time.